The enormous alien spacecraft materializes in Earth orbit, its sleek, iridescent hull gleaming against the backdrop of stars. Panic erupts across the globe as military forces scramble to respond to this unprecedented event. Within moments, communication systems worldwide crackle to life with a message from the vessel's occupant, Queen Cora of the Illyrians. Cora's holographic image appears before world leaders, her striking beauty immediately apparent. Iridescent skin shimmers with every movement, and her piercing violet eyes survey the assembled humans with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "People of Earth," she begins, her voice melodious yet tinged with condescension, "we have observed your planet for centuries, believing it to be populated by primitive apes. Recent technological advancements have drawn our attention. I demand an audience with your most accomplished male specimens." The United Nations springs into action, hastily assembling a delegation of prominent men from various fields. Among them stands Raymond Burns, a decorated military officer and renowned diplomat. His tall, muscular form and chiseled features make him a striking figure even among this elite group. Tension fills the air as Queen Cora and her entourage of Illyrian guards enter the UN headquarters in New York. The alien sovereign's eyes widen in surprise as she takes in the assembled human males. Her gaze lingers on Raymond, a flicker of unexpected interest crossing her face. This shift in Cora's demeanor creates a palpable change in the room's atmosphere. The Queen struggles to maintain her composure, her earlier superiority giving way to a mix of confusion and attraction. The human delegates, acutely aware of the advanced technology at the Illyrians' disposal, recognize both the threat and the opportunity presented by this first contact. Raymond steps forward, his military training evident in his confident stride. He meets Cora's violet eyes, extending a hand in greeting. "Welcome to Earth, Queen Cora. I am Raymond Burns, representing humanity in this historic meeting." Cora hesitates, her gaze flicking between Raymond's face and his outstretched hand. The fate of both species hangs in the balance of this moment. Will the Queen's evident interest in human males, particularly Raymond, open a door for diplomacy? Or will the Illyrians' apparent disdain for Earth's primitive status lead to conflict? As Cora reaches out to accept Raymond's handshake, the assembled delegates hold their breath. This simple gesture marks the beginning of human-Illyrian relations, a pivotal moment that will shape the future of both races. The Queen's touch lingers a fraction longer than necessary, her iridescent skin contrasting with Raymond's tan complexion. "Perhaps," Cora says, her voice softer than before, "we have underestimated the potential of your species." Her eyes never leave Raymond's face as she addresses the room. "We have much to discuss, people of Earth. Your world is not what we expected." With these words, the formal introductions begin. Raymond and his fellow delegates prepare to navigate the complex waters of interspecies diplomacy, acutely aware that every word and action could have far-reaching consequences. The future of humanity now rests on their ability to turn the Illyrian surprise and the Queen's apparent interest to their advantage. As Raymond's hand clasped Queen Cora's, an electric current seemed to pass between them. The Queen's iridescent skin shimmered more intensely, a subtle change that didn't go unnoticed by the keen-eyed delegates in the room. Cora's violet eyes widened, her composure faltering for a fraction of a second as she struggled to maintain her regal demeanor. "Queen Cora," Raymond said, his voice steady despite the tension in the air, "we're honored to welcome you to Earth. I believe there's much we can learn from each other." Cora nodded, her gaze fixed on Raymond's face. "Indeed, Raymond Burns. It seems I may have been hasty in my initial assessment of your world." The Queen's admission sent a ripple of murmurs through the assembled delegates. Raymond seized the opportunity, gesturing towards a series of displays set up around the room. "If you'll allow me, Your Majesty, I'd like to share some of humanity's recent achievements," he offered. Cora hesitated, then inclined her head. "Proceed." As Raymond led the Queen through the exhibits, He spoke passionately about Earth's technological advancements, artistic creations, and cultural diversity. He showed her images of sprawling cities and pristine wilderness, explained the intricacies of human scientific discoveries, and even touched on the complexities of Earth's geopolitical landscape. Throughout the presentation, Cora's expression shifted from polite interest to genuine fascination. Her earlier condescension melted away, replaced by a growing admiration for the human race's accomplishments. "Your species has achieved much in a relatively short time," Cora remarked, her melodious voice tinged with surprise. "I find myself intrigued by your potential." Raymond smiled, acutely aware of the Queen's proximity. "We're a young species compared to the Illyrians, but we're eager to learn and grow. Perhaps there's room for cooperation between our worlds?" Before Cora could respond, a tall, willowy Illyrian stepped forward from the Queen's entourage. Her silver hair was pulled back in an intricate braid, and her eyes, a deep emerald green, were fixed on Raymond with an inscrutable expression. "Your Majesty," she said, her voice low and musical, "we should consider our next steps carefully. Remember our mission." Cora straightened, composing herself. "Of course, Zara. Thank you for the reminder." She turned back to Raymond, her expression now a careful mask of neutrality. "You've given us much to consider, Raymond Burns. I believe a more thorough evaluation of your world is in order." The room fell silent as the implications of her words sank in. Raymond exchanged glances with his fellow delegates, a mix of hope and apprehension on their faces. "What exactly are you proposing, Queen Cora?" he asked. Cora's eyes never left Raymond's as she addressed the room. "I have decided to extend our diplomatic mission. We will remain on Earth to conduct a more comprehensive study of your civilization and its potential for interstellar relations." The announcement sent shockwaves through both human and Illyrian delegations. Zara's emerald eyes narrowed, her posture stiffening as she watched the Queen interact with Raymond. Sensing an opportunity, Raymond stepped forward. "Your Majesty, if you're planning an extended stay, perhaps I could offer my services as your primary liaison? My experience in diplomacy and cultural exchange could be valuable in facilitating understanding between our species." Cora's iridescent skin flushed a deeper hue, her violet eyes brightening at the suggestion. "An excellent proposal, Raymond Burns. I accept your offer." As the meeting concluded and preparations for the extended Illyrian visit began, Raymond found himself at the center of a diplomatic whirlwind. Nations clamored for influence. Scientists salivated at the prospect of technological exchange, and military leaders eyed the Illyrian ship with a mixture of fear and envy. Through it all, Raymond couldn't shake the memory of Queen Cora's touch, the way her eyes had widened when they first met. As he coordinated with world leaders and Illyrian officials, he found his thoughts continually drifting back to the alien sovereign. In the privacy of her temporary quarters, Queen Cora paced restlessly, her iridescent skin pulsing with impossibly strong energy. Zara watched her with growing concern. "Your Majesty," Zara ventured, "are you certain this is wise? Our original mission was based on flawed intelligence," Cora interrupted, her violet eyes flashing. "We've discovered something unexpected here, something worth exploring further." Zara's emerald eyes narrowed. "And does this something have a name, Your Majesty?" "Perhaps. Raymond Burns?" Cora whirled to face her advisor, a challenge in her gaze. "Be careful, Zara. You overstep." As the two Illyrians locked in a battle of wills, Raymond stood at the window of his own quarters, gazing up at the massive alien ship hovering in Earth's orbit. The fate of two worlds now rested on his shoulders, and he couldn't shake the feeling that his growing fascination with Queen Cora would play a crucial role in shaping that fate. The stage was set for a diplomatic dance unlike any in human history, with the potential for both unprecedented cooperation and catastrophic conflict. As Earth prepared to host its first long-term alien visitors, Raymond Burns steeled himself for the challenge ahead, knowing that every interaction with Queen Cora would be a delicate balancing act between duty and desire. As Earth prepared to host its first long-term alien visitors, Raymond Burns found himself at the center of a diplomatic whirlwind. The United Nations swiftly established a secure compound in a picturesque coastal location, combining the best of human technology with Illyrian modifications to accommodate Queen Cora and her entourage. Raymond's new role as the Queen's personal liaison meant relocating to the compound, a move that filled him with both excitement and trepidation. As he unpacked his belongings in his new quarters, he couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The first week of Queen Cora's stay was a flurry of activity. Raymond worked tirelessly to coordinate with both human and Illyrian officials, ensuring every detail was perfect. It was during a brief lull in the chaos that Cora approached him with an unexpected request. "Raymond," she said, her melodious voice tinged with curiosity, "I wish to experience your world beyond the confines of this compound. Show me the wonders of human culture." Raymond blinked in surprise, then nodded. "Of course, Your Majesty. I'd be honored to guide you through some of Earth's cultural highlights." Their first outing was to a renowned art museum. As they entered the grand foyer, Raymond couldn't help but notice how Cora's iridescent skin seemed to shimmer in response to the changing light. The Queen's violet eyes widened as they took in the vast collection of human creativity. "This is extraordinary," Cora breathed, her gaze sweeping across a massive abstract painting. The diversity of styles, the raw emotion captured in pigment and stone. "I had no idea humans were capable of such expression." Raymond found himself captivated by Cora's genuine wonder. As they moved from exhibit to exhibit, he explained the various artistic movements and their historical contexts. The Queen listened intently, her skin pulsing with subtle hues that seemed to mirror the colors around her. "This piece," Raymond said, gesturing to a sculpture of intertwined figures, "represents the complexity of human relationships." The artist wanted to capture the tension between intimacy and individuality. Cora stepped closer, her head tilted in contemplation. "Fascinating. It seems your species grapples with many of the same emotional challenges as ours." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the air between them seemed charged with an unspoken connection. Raymond quickly looked away, acutely aware of the guards and officials surrounding them. Their next excursion took them to a sprawling botanical garden. As they strolled along winding paths bordered by lush vegetation, Cora's fascination with Earth's flora became evident. She paused frequently to examine leaves, petals, and bark, her fingers hovering just above the surfaces as if afraid to touch. "Our worlds are so different," she mused, "yet there's a universal beauty in the way life adapts and thrives." They rounded a corner and came upon a greenhouse dedicated to rare orchids. Cora gasped, her eyes fixed on a delicate bloom with iridescent petals. This reminds me of the sacred flowers that grow in the high mountains of Illyria," she said softly. "We call them star tears for the way they glisten in the moonlight." Raymond watched as Cora's usual composure gave way to a moment of vulnerability. "It must be difficult, being so far from home," he said gently. Cora turned to him, her violet eyes shimmering with emotion. "It is, but moments like this, they make the journey worthwhile." As the days passed, their outings continued. They visited historical landmarks, attended cultural events, and even sampled local cuisine. With each experience, the chemistry between Raymond and Queen Cora intensified. Their conversations grew more personal, touching on topics beyond mere diplomacy. One evening, as they walked to the compound's gardens after a particularly long day of meetings, Cora shared details about Illyrian society and her role as queen. "It's a heavy burden," she admitted, her voice low, "to be responsible for the fate of an entire species. Sometimes I wonder if I'm truly up to the task." Raymond nodded, understanding all too well the weight of leadership. I've often felt the same way in my own career, but from what I've seen, Your Majesty, you carry that burden with grace and wisdom. Cora's skin flushed a deeper hue at his words. Thank you, Raymond. And please, when we're alone like this, call me Cora. Their growing closeness did not go unnoticed. Zara, Cora's chief advisor, watched their interactions with increasing concern. After one of their outings, she cornered the Queen in her private chambers. Your Majesty, Zara said, her emerald eyes narrowed, I must express my reservations about the amount of time you're spending with a human, Raymond Burns. Cora bristled. My interactions with Raymond are purely diplomatic, Zara. He's providing valuable insights into human culture. Zara's expression remained skeptical. Perhaps, but we must be cautious. The political ramifications of appearing too close to a single human could be disastrous. Outside the compound, news of Queen Cora's presence on Earth had sparked a global media frenzy. Paparazzi and journalists clamored for glimpses of the alien monarch and her human escort. Images of Raymond and Cora at various locations fueled rampant speculation about the nature of their relationship. As Raymond scrolled through news feeds on his tablet one morning, he felt a knot form in his stomach. Headlines screamed about alien love affairs and interstellar diplomacy or cosmic romance. He knew the situation was spiraling out of control, but he couldn't deny the growing attraction he felt towards Cora. World leaders convened an emergency summit to discuss the rapidly evolving situation. Some nations expressed concern about the apparent closeness between Raymond and Queen Cora, fearing it could compromise Earth's negotiating position. Others saw it as an opportunity to strengthen ties with the technologically advanced Illyrians. Amidst the political turmoil, a group of human extremists who opposed any form of alien presence on Earth began to mobilize. They viewed the growing rapport between Raymond and Queen Cora as a threat to human autonomy and started planning ways to disrupt future outings. Security measures around the compound and during excursions were increased, adding an element of danger to Raymond and Cora's developing relationship. Despite the external pressures, they found themselves drawn to each other during quiet moments in the compound. One evening, as they watched the sunset from a private balcony, their hands accidentally brushed against each other. The contact sent a jolt of electricity through both of them, highlighting the undeniable attraction that had been building. They quickly withdrew, acutely aware of the potential consequences of pursuing their feelings. Raymond cleared his throat, his heart racing. Cora, The Queen held up a hand, her violet eyes filled with a mix of longing and regret. We can't, Raymond. You know we can't. He nodded, the weight of their responsibilities settling heavily on his shoulders. As they stood in silence, watching the last rays of sunlight disappear below the horizon, both Raymond and Cora knew that the true challenges of their unique relationship were only beginning. The weight of their unspoken feelings hung heavy in the air as they turned away from the fading light. Their moment of quiet reflection was shattered by a sudden flash. Raymond's head snapped towards the source, his eyes widening as he spotted a photographer crouched behind a nearby hedge. Before he could react, the paparazzo disappeared into the shadows. We need to go, Raymond said urgently, ushering Cora back inside. Someone just took our picture. Cora's skin pulsed with anxiety. What does this mean? Nothing good, Raymond muttered, his mind racing through potential scenarios. Within hours, their fears were realized. The photo, capturing their intimate moment on the balcony, blazed across news networks and social media platforms worldwide. Their faces, illuminated by the setting sun, appeared tender and filled with longing. The image ignited a firestorm of controversy and speculation. Raymond's phone buzzed incessantly with calls from UN officials, journalists, and concerned colleagues. He paced his quarters, running a hand through his hair as he listened to a stern message from the Secretary General. Burns, we're convening an emergency Security Council session. Your position as liaison is under scrutiny. Be prepared to defend yourself. As Raymond grappled with the political fallout, Queen Cora faced her own challenges. Zara burst into the Queen's chambers, her emerald eyes flashing with terrifying fury. Your Majesty, this is precisely what I warned you about, Zara hissed, gesturing at the holographic displays showing the viral image. Your indiscretion with the human has jeopardized our entire mission. Cora's skin darkened with indignation. You overstepped, Zara. My interactions with Raymond have been nothing but beneficial for our understanding of human culture. Zara's voice lowered to a dangerous whisper. And what of Illyrian culture, my queen? Have you forgotten your duty to our people? The accusation stung Cora deeply. As Zara stormed out, the queen sank onto a nearby chair, her mind in turmoil. Outside the compound, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Crowds gathered in major cities across the globe, their chants echoing through the streets. Some waved signs supporting the blossoming interspecies relationship, while others demanded the immediate expulsion of the Illyrians. In Washington, D.C., a charismatic figure stood before a roaring crowd. Victor Hawthorne, his military bearing evident in his rigid posture, raised his voice above the din. People of Earth, we stand at a crossroads, he bellowed, his words broadcast to millions. Our leaders fraternize with alien invaders while our autonomy crumbles. We must act now to preserve humanity's future. The crowd's frenzy grew, their angry shouts drowning out the pleas for calm from local authorities. As tensions mounted on Earth, events beyond the planet's atmosphere took an ominous turn. A sleek Illyrian scout ship slipped into orbit, its stealth technology rendering it nearly invisible to human tracking systems. On the bridge, General Thax surveyed the blue planet with cold, calculating eyes. Prepare for my departure to the surface, he commanded. It's time we reasserted Illyrian authority in this misguided venture. Back at the compound, Raymond and Cora found themselves at the center of a political maelstrom. Security measures tightened, limiting their movements and interactions. Yet, in stolen moments between crisis meetings and diplomatic negotiations, they managed to connect. I never meant for this to happen, Raymond said softly as they stood in a secluded corridor. I should have been more careful. Cora's skin shimmered with a mix of emotions. Neither of us could have predicted this, Raymond. But now we must face the consequences. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a stern-faced UN official. Mr. Burns, your presence is required at the Security Council meeting. It's starting in 10 minutes. Raymond nodded, shooting one last meaningful look at Cora before following the official. The Queen watched him go, a sense of foreboding settling over her. The Security Council chamber buzzed with tension as Raymond took his seat. He could feel the weight of judgmental stares from his human colleagues, their trust in him clearly shaken. As the debate raged over his future as liaison, Raymond's thoughts drifted to the research facility he and Cora had visited just days earlier. He recalled the wonder in her eyes as Dr. Elena Volkov demonstrated the groundbreaking gene therapy, and how that moment had seemed to shift something in the Illyrian Queen's perspective. Suddenly, an aide burst into the chamber, his face pale. "Excuse the interruption," he gasped, "but we've detected an Illyrian ship entering Earth's atmosphere. It's heading directly for the compound." The room erupted in chaos as officials scrambled to assess this new development. Raymond's heart raced, his mind immediately turning to Cora's safety. At the compound, Cora paced her quarters anxiously, awaiting news from the Security Council meeting. A sharp knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Zara, flanked by two imposing Illyrian guards. "Your Majesty," Zara said, her tone clipped. "General Thax has arrived. He demands an immediate audience." Cora's skin paled, but she straightened her posture, every inch the regal queen. "Very well. Lead the way." As she followed Zara through the compound's winding corridors, Cora steeled herself for the confrontation ahead. She knew that her decisions in the coming moments would shape not only her own fate, but the future of human-Illyrian relations. The door to the compound's main conference room slid open, revealing the intimidating figure of General Thax. His piercing gaze locked onto Cora as she entered, his disapproval palpable. "My queen," Thax said, his voice a low rumble. "We have much to discuss about the future of our mission here on Earth." Cora took a deep breath, acutely aware of the precarious balance she needed to maintain between her duties as Illyrian queen and her growing appreciation for humanity. As the door closed behind her, she squared her shoulders, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the door closed behind her, Cora squared her shoulders, ready to face whatever challenges lay before her. General Thax's imposing figure dominated the conference room, his intense look fixed on the Illyrian queen. "Your Majesty," he began, his voice a low rumble, "your actions have put our entire mission at risk. The humans are developing weapons that could threaten our very existence, and you waste time fraternizing with their kind." Cora's skin pulsed with indignation, but she kept her voice steady. "General, I believe you've misinterpreted the situation. My interactions with the humans, particularly Raymond Burns, have provided invaluable insights into their culture and motivations." Thax's eyes narrowed. "And what of the weapons research? Our intelligence reports may be flawed," Cora interrupted. She took a deep breath, an idea forming in her mind. "I propose we address these concerns directly. A formal diplomatic summit between our delegation and high-ranking human officials. We can present our evidence and allow them to respond." The general considered her words, his expression unreadable. After a long moment, he nodded. "Very well, Your Majesty. But I warn you, if the humans cannot satisfactorily explain their actions, I will recommend immediate withdrawal from this planet." As Cora left the conference room, her mind raced. She knew the summit would be a delicate balancing act, one that could determine the future of human-Illyrian relations. She needed to speak with Raymond. Hours later, the compound buzzed with activity as final preparations for the summit were made. Raymond, having returned from the Security Council meeting, found himself thrust into the role of primary human representative. He pored over reports and briefings, determined to counter the Illyrians' claims. As he worked, a gentle knock on his door pulled his attention away from the documents. He opened it to find Queen Cora, her violet eyes filled with a mix of dedication and concern. "Raymond," she said softly, "I need to speak with you about the summit." He ushered her inside, closing the door behind them. "Of course. What's on your mind?" Cora's skin shimmered with nervous energy. "General Thax is convinced that humans are developing weapons to use against us. We need to prove him wrong, or the consequences could be severe." Raymond nodded, his expression grim. "I've been working on our presentation. I think I have something that might change their minds." He led her to his desk, where holographic displays showed various scientific projects. "Here, look at this." As he explained his strategy, focusing on Earth's commitment to peaceful scientific advancement, Cora felt a surge of hope. When Raymond highlighted Dr. Elena Volkov's gene therapy research, the Queen's eyes widened with recognition. "The project we saw at the research facility," she breathed. "Raymond, this is perfect. It showcases human ingenuity, focused on improving lives, not taking them." Their eyes met, a moment of shared understanding passing between them. Raymond's hand brushed against hers as he reached for another document, and neither pulled away immediately. The contact sent a familiar jolt through both of them, but before either could speak, a sharp knock at the door shattered the moment. "Mr. Burns," a voice called. "The summit is about to begin." As they made their way to the main conference hall, Raymond and Cora walked close together, their steps in sync. The weight of what was to come hung heavy in the air, but they drew strength from each other's presence. The conference hall fell silent as Raymond took his place at the podium. General Thax sat stone-faced in the front row, flanked by other Illyrian officials. Human diplomats and military personnel filled the rest of the room, their expressions a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Raymond began his presentation, his voice clear and confident. He systematically addressed the Illyrians' concerns, presenting evidence of Earth's peaceful intentions. When he reached the section on Dr. Volkov's research, he noticed a shift in the room's atmosphere. Even General Thax leaned forward, his interest piqued. As Raymond concluded, a sense of cautious optimism filled the air. He could see Queen Cora nodding approvingly, her skin glowing with a soft, pleased light. General Thax's expression had softened somewhat, hints of doubt creeping into his previously unwavering stance. But before anyone could speak, a deafening explosion rocked the compound. Alarms blared as smoke filled the air, and chaos erupted in the conference hall. Raymond's training kicked in, and he immediately moved to secure Queen Cora. "We're under attack," someone shouted amidst the confusion. Raymond grabbed Cora's arm, pulling her close. "We need to get you to safety," he said urgently. As they moved towards the exit, another explosion shook the building. Debris rained down, forcing them to change course. They found themselves separated from the main group, navigating through smoke-filled corridors. "This way," Raymond called, leading Cora down a side passage. "There's a secure communication center nearby. We can call for help and assess the situation from there." As they rounded a corner, they came face to face with a group of armed intruders. Raymond reacted instantly, pushing Cora behind him and taking a defensive stance. The attackers, caught off guard by their sudden appearance, hesitated for a crucial moment. Raymond seized the opportunity, disarming the nearest assailant with a swift move. Cora, her royal training kicking in, joined the fray. Together, they fought off the attackers, their movements surprisingly synchronized. As the last attacker fell, Raymond noticed a familiar emblem on their uniforms. "Hawthorne's extremists," he muttered grimly. "They must have infiltrated our security." Cora's skin pulsed with adrenaline. "We need to warn the others." They continued their journey through the compound, evading more groups of extremists. At one point, they were forced to hide in a narrow storage closet, pressed close together in the darkness. The physical proximity sent Raymond's heart racing, and he could feel the warmth radiating from Cora's skin. Just as they thought the danger had passed, the closet door was wrenched open. An attacker loomed over them, weapon raised. Raymond acted on instinct, throwing himself in front of Cora. A searing pain tore through his side as the attacker's weapon discharged. Despite the injury, Raymond managed to overpower the assailant. As the attacker crumpled to the ground, he stumbled, the adrenaline fading and the pain intensifying. "Raymond," Cora cried, catching him as he swayed. Her eyes widened as she saw the blood seeping through his shirt. "You're hurt." He gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stand straight. "I'm fine. We need to keep moving." Cora's expression hardened with drive. "Not before I treat that wound. My people's medical knowledge might be able to help." She guided him to a nearby room, quickly gathering supplies. As she tended to his injury, her hands moved with precision and care. The intimate contact made Raymond acutely aware of their closeness, despite the dire circumstances. "Thank you," he said softly, his eyes meeting hers. "For everything." Cora's skin shimmered with a mix of emotions. "We're in this together, Raymond. Now, let's finish what we started." With rekindled commitment, they made their way to the communication center. As they worked to establish contact with the outside world and coordinate the defense efforts, both Raymond and Cora knew that their relationship had irrevocably changed. The challenges they faced had forged a bond between them, one that transcended their roles as diplomat and monarch. As they waited for reinforcements to arrive, Raymond found himself wondering about the future. The attack had thrown everything into chaos, but it had also created an opportunity. An opportunity for humans and Illyrians to come together in the face of a common threat. An opportunity for understanding, cooperation, and perhaps something more. The sound of approaching footsteps pulled them from their thoughts. Raymond and Cora exchanged a look, ready to face whatever came next. Together, the sound of approaching footsteps grew louder, echoing through the corridor. Raymond and Cora exchanged a determined look, their bodies tensing for potential conflict. As the door to the communication center slid open, they relaxed at the sight of a team of human security personnel led by General Thax. "Your Majesty, Mr. Burns," Thax said, his voice gruff but tinged with relief. "I'm glad to see you both unharmed." In the days that followed, as the compound buzzed with activity to address the security breach, Raymond and Cora found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of meetings and debriefings. The attack had paradoxically strengthened the bond between humans and Illyrians, as both sides recognized the need for unity against common threats. 2 weeks after the incident, Raymond sat in his office, reviewing reports on the aftermath of the attack. A knock at the door preceded Cora's entrance, her skin glowing with a soft, determined light. "Raymond," she said, her voice carrying a note of excitement, "I've been thinking about our next steps. We need to show both our peoples that cooperation is not just possible, but beneficial." He leaned forward, intrigued. "What do you have in mind?" "A diplomatic tour," Cora replied, her eyes bright. "We'll visit Earth's major cities, showcase the potential of human-Illyrian collaboration, and launch a cultural exchange program." Raymond nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "It's bold, but it could work. We'll need to start planning immediately." Over the next few weeks, they threw themselves into preparations for the tour. As they worked closely together, the connection between them deepened, their shared experiences forging a bond that transcended their roles as diplomat and monarch. The tour began in New York City, with Raymond and Cora stepping onto the iconic grounds of the United Nations headquarters. Cameras flashed as they made their way to the podium, the eyes of the world upon them. Cora's voice rang out clear and strong as she addressed the assembled dignitaries and media. "Today, we embark on a journey of understanding and cooperation. The cultural exchange program we are launching will bring our peoples together, allowing us to learn from one another and build a shared future." As they left the building, a group of protesters surged forward, their angry shouts piercing the air. Raymond reacted instinctively, placing himself between Cora and the crowd. A projectile whistled past his ear, and he pulled Cora close, shielding her with his body as they hurried to their waiting vehicle. Inside the car, their eyes met, a moment of shared adrenaline and unspoken gratitude passing between them. The incident, captured by dozens of cameras, became the lead story on news channels worldwide, symbolizing the challenges and promise of human-Illyrian relations. Their next stop was Beijing, where they met with Chinese officials to discuss technological collaborations. During a tour of the Forbidden City, Raymond and Cora found themselves alone in a secluded courtyard, the ancient buildings looming around them. "It's beautiful," Cora murmured, her skin shimmering in the fading sunlight. "So much history, so much resilience." Raymond turned to her, struck by the wonder in her eyes. "Cora, Their faces drew closer, the air between them charged with unspoken emotion. Just as their lips were about to meet, the sound of approaching footsteps caused them to spring apart. Their security detail rounded the corner, oblivious to the moment they had interrupted. In Moscow, they visited the research facility, where Dr. Elena Volkov was pushing the boundaries of human resilience. Cora's fascination was evident as she pored over holographic displays of gene sequences and environmental simulations. "This is extraordinary," she exclaimed, turning to Raymond with excitement dancing in her eyes. "The applications for space exploration alone are staggering. Your people continue to amaze me, Raymond." As the tour progressed through New Delhi, Cairo, and Rio de Janeiro, public support for human-Illyrian cooperation grew. However, Raymond couldn't help but notice the scrutiny they were under. He caught glimpses of Zara in deep conversation with human officials, her expression guarded. General Thax, meanwhile, seemed to be undergoing a transformation of his own. Raymond observed him engaging with locals in each city, asking questions about their cultures and technologies with genuine interest. The final stop of their whirlwind tour brought them to a remote research station in Antarctica. As they surveyed the vast ice fields, a sudden storm descended upon them, cutting visibility to near zero. "We need to find shelter," Raymond shouted over the howling wind, gripping Cora's arm tightly. They stumbled through the blinding snow, finally reaching an emergency cabin. As Raymond secured the door behind them, they found themselves alone in the small, dimly lit space. Cora's skin pulsed with a mix of relief and something more intense. "Raymond," she said softly, "I think it's time we talked about us." He took a step closer, his heart racing. "Cora, these past weeks, working with you, getting to know you, I've never felt anything like this before." Their eyes locked, the air between them electric. This time, there was no interruption as their lips met in a passionate kiss. The storm outside faded away as they lost themselves in the moment, years of tension and unspoken feelings finally finding release. The sudden sound of the cabin door opening jolted them apart. General Thax stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable as he took in the scene before him. "Your Majesty, Mr. Burns," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "The rescue team has arrived. It's time to return to base." As they made their way back to the main compound, Raymond and Cora exchanged worried glances. The success of their diplomatic tour hung in the balance, as did the future of human-Illyrian relations. But more than that, they both knew that whatever came next, nothing would ever be the same between them again. As they stepped off the plane in New York, the weight of their shared experience in Antarctica hung between them. Raymond and Cora exchanged a glance, unspoken words passing between them as they made their way through the bustling airport. The diplomatic tour had been a whirlwind of success, but now came the real challenge: implementing the cultural exchange program they had promised the world. Back at the compound, they dove into the preparations, their proximity both a comfort and a source of tension. "We've received over 10,000 applications already," Raymond said, scrolling through the data on his tablet. "It seems everyone wants to be part of this historic moment." Cora's skin shimmered with excitement. "It's encouraging to see such enthusiasm from both sides. We should prioritize candidates with skills that complement each other." As they worked, General Thax's presence became a constant shadow. He hovered nearby during meetings, his eyes watchful. Raymond noticed the increased security measures, the subtle ways Thax maneuvered to keep him and Cora apart. One afternoon, as they were reviewing potential candidates, Dr. Elena Volkov's profile came up on the screen. Cora's eyes lit up with recognition. Dr. Volkov's work in gene therapy could revolutionize our understanding of Illyrian biology, she said. She would be an invaluable asset to the program. Raymond nodded in agreement, but before he could respond, a loud, crackling noise filled the room. The lights flickered, and their computer screens went dark. "What's happening?" Cora asked, her skin pulsing with alarm. Raymond frowned, tapping at his now unresponsive tablet. "I'm not sure. This is the third technical glitch we've had this week." As they worked to restore the systems, Raymond couldn't shake the feeling that something more sinister was at play. His suspicions grew as reports of similar malfunctions poured in from various departments. Over the next few days, Raymond found himself working closely with General Thax to investigate the disruptions. Despite their differences, Raymond had to admit that Thax's military expertise was invaluable. "We've traced the source of the sabotage," Thax said grimly, pointing to a map on the screen. "It leads back to Victor Hawthorne." Raymond's expression resolute. Hawthorne? But he's supposed to be in maximum security. Apparently, he's found ways to communicate with his followers on the outside, Thax replied. We need to move him to a more secure facility immediately. The operation to transfer Hawthorne was tense from the start. Raymond insisted on overseeing it personally, much to Thax's chagrin. As they approached the prison, the air crackled with nervous energy. Suddenly, an explosion rocked the convoy. Smoke filled the air as armed figures emerged from the chaos. Raymond's training kicked in, and he found himself moving on instinct. "Get down!" he shouted, pushing an Illyrian guard out of the line of fire. He grabbed a fallen weapon and returned fire, his mind racing to formulate a plan. In the midst of the firefight, Raymond spotted Hawthorne being ushered towards an escape vehicle. Without hesitation, he sprinted towards them, dodging bullets and debris. "Raymond, wait!" Thax's voice called out, but Raymond was already committed. He tackled Hawthorne to the ground, wresting the gun from his hand. As they struggled, Raymond became acutely aware of the danger surrounding them. He made a split-second decision, using his body to shield Hawthorne from the crossfire. When the dust settled, Hawthorne was back in custody, and Raymond found himself on the receiving end of a grudging nod of respect from General Thax. Back at the compound, the final preparations for the exchange program were underway. The selection process had been grueling, but they had assembled a diverse and talented group of participants. On the eve of the program's launch, Raymond received a message from Cora requesting his presence in her quarters. His heart raced as he made his way through the quiet corridors. Cora greeted him with a smile that sent warmth spreading through his chest. "Raymond," she said softly, "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done. This program, it's more than I ever dared hope for." Their eyes met, and the air between them seemed to crackle with electricity. Without a word, they moved towards each other, their lips meeting in a kiss that spoke of longing and desire. As they came together, their bodies intertwining in a dance of passion and discovery, Raymond marveled at the feeling of Cora's skin against his. The differences in their physiology only heightened the intensity of their connection. In the afterglow of their encounter, as they lay tangled in each other's arms, a sharp beeping from Cora's communication device shattered the moment. Cora's face paled as she read the message. "It's from the High Council," she said, her voice tight. "They're demanding my immediate return to Illyria. There's unrest. They're questioning my actions here on Earth." Raymond sat up, his mind racing. But the exchange program, it's set to launch tomorrow. We can't just dash. "I know," Cora interrupted, her skin pulsing with a mix of emotions. "But if I don't return, it could jeopardize everything we've worked for." As the first light of dawn crept through the windows, Raymond and Cora stood facing each other, the weight of their responsibilities pressing down on them. The success of the exchange program, the future of human-Illyrian relations, and their own burgeoning relationship all hung in the balance. "What are we going to do?" Raymond asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Cora's eyes met his, filled with willpower and a hint of fear. "We have to make a choice, Raymond, and we have to make it now." Now. Raymond took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenge ahead. "Then we adapt. We've come too far to let this derail everything we've worked for." Cora nodded, her expression resolute. "I agree, but how do we proceed without jeopardizing the exchange program?" A spark of inspiration lit up Raymond's eyes. "What if we turn this into an opportunity? Instead of you returning alone, we could propose a human delegation to accompany you to Illyria. It would transform our cultural exchange into a true diplomatic mission." Cora's skin shimmered with excitement. "That's brilliant, Raymond. It could satisfy the High Council's demands while furthering our goals." They quickly set to work, reaching out to key officials and drafting a proposal. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as they navigated the political minefield their plan had created. General Fax, initially skeptical, came around to the idea after a tense discussion with Raymond. "It's risky," he admitted, "but it could pay off in ways we haven't even considered." Dr. Elena Volkov was among the first to volunteer for the delegation. The chance to study Illyrian biology on their home world? "I wouldn't miss it for anything," she said, her eyes gleaming with scientific curiosity. As news of the impromptu diplomatic mission spread, both human and Illyrian officials scrambled to adapt. The original exchange program participants were disappointed, but many saw the potential in this new development. Raymond found himself at the center of a storm of preparations. He coordinated with security teams, underwent crash courses in Illyrian etiquette, and helped select the human delegates who would join the mission. Cora worked tirelessly alongside him, her purpose matching his own. In stolen moments between meetings and briefings, they found themselves drawn to each other, the pressure of their responsibilities only intensifying their connection. The Illyrian spacecraft, a sleek vessel that seemed to defy the laws of physics, was quickly prepared for the journey. Raymond marveled at its design, his mind racing with questions about the technology that powered it. As the departure date loomed, security concerns escalated. Reports of increased activity among Victor Hawthorne's followers put everyone on edge. Raymond collaborated closely with General Fax, devising intricate security measures to ensure the mission's safety. The night before their scheduled departure, alarms blared through the compound. Raymond sprinted towards a hangar, his heart pounding. He arrived to find a group of infiltrators attempting to sabotage the Illyrian ship. Without hesitation, he charged into the fray. The clash was intense, with Raymond relying on his training and quick thinking to outmaneuver the attackers. In the heat of the battle, he felt a sharp pain in his side but pushed through, focused on protecting the mission. As security forces arrived to subdue the infiltrators, Raymond slumped against the ship's hull, the adrenaline fading and the pain in his side intensifying. Cora rushed to his side, her eyes wide with concern. "You're hurt," she said, her voice tight with emotion. Raymond managed a weak smile. "It's nothing. The ship is safe. That's what matters." Medical teams quickly arrived, treating Raymond's injury. It was painful but not life-threatening, a fact that did little to ease Cora's worry. The attempted sabotage only strengthened the willpower of those involved in the mission. As dawn broke on the day of their departure, the compound buzzed with activity. Global media descended on the launch site, eager to capture this historic moment. Raymond, still sore from his injury but determined not to show it, stood beside Cora as they addressed the world one final time before their journey. "Today, we take a monumental step towards true understanding between our peoples," Cora said, her voice clear and strong. "This mission represents our shared commitment to peace and cooperation." Raymond nodded, adding, "We go not just as diplomats, but as explorers and students, eager to learn and grow together." As they boarded the ship, Raymond couldn't help but notice the looks exchanged between the human and Illyrian crew members. There was nervousness, yes, but also excitement and curiosity. The ship's interior was a marvel of design and function. As they strapped into their seats for takeoff, Raymond felt a mix of anticipation and trepidation. He glanced at Cora, seated beside him, and found strength in her steady gaze. The engines hummed to life, a sound unlike anything Raymond had ever experienced. As the ship lifted off, leaving Earth behind, he felt a profound sense of awe. Through the viewports, he watched his home planet shrink, becoming a blue marble suspended in the vastness of space. The human delegates, including Dr. Volkov, were visibly amazed by the ship's artificial gravity and the smooth transition into faster-than-light travel. Raymond found himself fielding countless questions about Illyrian technology, relying heavily on Cora's expertise to provide answers. As they settled into the journey, Raymond and Cora found brief moments of privacy. In a quiet corner of the ship's observation deck, they stood close, their fingers intertwined. "Whatever happens when we reach Illyria," Raymond said softly, "know that I'm with you every step of the way." Cora's skin pulsed with a warm glow. "And I with you, Raymond. Together, we can face anything." Their moment of peace was interrupted by a violent shudder that ran through the ship. Alarms blared as the vessel rocked, caught in the grip of an unexpected space phenomenon. "All hands to stations," the ship's pilot, Lyra, called out over the intercom. "We've encountered an energy storm. Brace for turbulence." Raymond and Cora exchanged a look of grit before racing to the bridge. As they worked to navigate the dangerous anomaly, human and Illyrian crew members alike found themselves relying on each other's strengths and knowledge. Dr. Volkov's expertise in advanced physics proved invaluable as they calculated a safe path through the storm. Raymond, drawing on his diplomatic skills, helped coordinate the efforts of the mixed crew. As they emerged from the other side of the phenomenon, a cheer went up from both human and Illyrian crew members. The shared crisis had forged a bond between them, a tangible example of what their two species could accomplish together. The remainder of the journey passed quickly, filled with cultural exchanges, scientific discussions, and further preparations for their arrival on Illyria. Raymond noticed Cora growing more pensive as they neared her home world, her skin pulsing with subtle patterns that he was learning to read as signs of worry. Late one night's cycle, he found her alone in the ship's communication center, poring over encrypted messages. "What is it?" he asked gently. Cora's expression was grim. "My loyalists on Illyria. They warn of growing unrest, factions moving against me. Our arrival may spark a political firestorm." Raymond placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Then we'll face it together. We didn't come this far to back down now." As the Illyrian home world came into view, a collective gasp went up from the human delegates. The planet was a vision of impossible beauty and advanced technology. Cities that seemed to defy gravity rose from lush landscapes, their architecture a blend of organic forms and crystalline structures. Raymond stood beside Cora on the bridge as they began their descent. The atmosphere in the ship was tense, a mix of anticipation and apprehension. As the surface of Illyria grew closer, Raymond's mind raced with the possibilities and challenges that awaited them. He glanced at Cora, seeing in her eyes the same persistence he felt. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it side by side, carrying with them the hopes of two worlds and the promise of a shared future. The ship entered Illyria's atmosphere, marking the beginning of a new chapter in human-Illyrian relations. As they prepared for landing, Raymond knew that their real work was just beginning. As they prepared for landing, Raymond knew that their real work was just starting. The ship's descent towards Illyria's surface filled the viewports with a landscape that defied imagination. Crystal spires pierced the sky, their facets refracting light in mesmerizing patterns. Sprawling cities stretched across the horizon, their architecture a blend of organic curves and impossible geometries that challenged human understanding. Raymond glanced at Cora, noticing the subtle tension in her posture. Her skin pulsed with patterns he now recognized as anxiety, though her face remained composed. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, feeling the slight tremor beneath her skin. "It's breathtaking," he murmured, gesturing towards the alien world below. Cora nodded, her eyes fixed on the approaching capital city. "It is. But beauty can hide danger, Raymond. We must be prepared for anything." The ship touched down with barely a tremor, a testament to Illyrian engineering. As the boarding ramp lowered, Raymond's senses were assaulted by the alien world. The air carried unfamiliar scents, crisp and slightly metallic. The gravity felt subtly different, as if the planet itself was gently pushing against him. Their arrival was met not with the expected diplomatic delegation, but with a contingent of Illyrian security forces. At their head stood Commander Vex, his towering form and stern expression immediately setting Raymond on edge. "Queen Cora." Vex's voice was deep and resonant. You are to accompany me to an emergency session of the High Council immediately. Cora's eyes narrowed. And the human delegation? They are to remain here under guard, Vex replied, his gaze sweeping over the assembled humans with barely concealed suspicion. Raymond stepped forward, his mind racing. Commander Vex, I must insist that the human delegation be allowed to observe the council session. As representatives of Earth, we have a vested interest in these proceedings. Vex's eyes locked onto Raymond, assessing. For a tense moment, Raymond feared he had overstepped. Then, to his surprise, the commander nodded curtly. Very well, but you will be subject to strict security measures. Any deviation from protocol will result in immediate removal. As they were led through the capital city, Raymond struggled to take in the technological marvels surrounding them. Flying vehicles wove intricate patterns through the air, while holographic displays projected streams of alien script. Dr. Volkov, walking beside him, was furiously scribbling notes, her eyes wide with scientific wonder. The High Council chambers loomed before them, a vast structure that seemed to defy gravity. Inside, the amphitheater-like space was filled with Illyrian dignitaries, their skin shimmering with a kaleidoscope of emotions. Arch-Counselor Zorn, a figure of imposing authority, stood as they entered. Queen Cora, you stand accused of actions unbecoming of your station. Your behavior on Earth and your inappropriate closeness with humans have raised serious concerns. Raymond watched as Cora drew herself up, her regal bearing on full display. I have acted in the best interest of Illyria and in pursuit of a partnership that will benefit both our peoples. A voice cut through the murmurs of the assembled council. A partnership or a betrayal of our superiority? The speaker was Zara, her eyes gleaming with nearly unleashed triumph as she approached the center of the chamber. I have evidence of Queen Cora's growing attachment to the human Raymond, an attachment that threatens the very fabric of our society. As Zara presented her case, Raymond felt the weight of countless alien eyes upon him. The accusation hung in the air, a tangible threat to everything they had worked for. Cora's voice, when she spoke, was filled with passion and conviction. Yes, I have grown close to Raymond and the other humans. I have learned from them, just as they have learned from us. This is not a weakness, but a strength. And to prove it, I call upon Raymond to present Earth's achievements and potential to this council. A ripple of surprise ran through the chamber. Raymond stepped forward, his heart pounding. As he began to speak of human ingenuity and resilience, he saw a mix of skepticism and curiosity in the alien faces before him. He was midway through describing Dr. Volkov's groundbreaking research when a commotion erupted outside the chamber. Commander Vex burst in, his usual composure shattered. Your Majesty, council members, we are under attack. A rebel faction has launched coordinated strikes against key facilities across the capital. The chamber erupted into chaos. Cora's voice cut through the din, sharp and authoritative. Commander Vex, coordinate with the human delegation. We will mount a joint response to this threat. As alarms blared throughout the city, Raymond found himself thrust into the heart of Illyrian internal conflict. He raced alongside Commander Vex, Dr. Volkov at his heels, as they made their way to the central security hub. The streets were in turmoil. Illyrian civilians sought shelter as rebel forces clashed with loyal security teams. Raymond ducked as an energy blast seared the air above his head, the unfamiliar weapon leaving scorch marks on a nearby crystal structure. Inside the security hub, a holographic display showed the extent of the rebel attack. Red markers indicated multiple breaches across the city's defenses. They released some kind of biological agent in the eastern quarter, an Illyrian technician reported, her skin flashing with patterns of distress. Dr. Volkov pushed forward. Let me see the data. I might be able to help. As Volkov immersed herself in the alien biochemistry, Raymond turned to Commander Vex. We need to secure the central power distribution node. If the rebels take control of it, they could paralyze the entire city. Vex nodded grimly. Agreed. But our forces are stretched thin. We don't have the numbers to mount an effective defense. Raymond's mind raced. What if we combined your troops with some of our human security personnel? Our different tactics and abilities might give us an edge the rebels won't expect. For a moment, Vex hesitated. Then, seeing the drive in Raymond's eyes, he made his decision. Very well. We attack in 10 minutes. Prepare your people. As Raymond gathered a team of human security experts, he caught a glimpse of Queen Cora on a nearby view screen. She was addressing her people, her voice steady and resolute as she called for unity in the face of the rebel threat. Their eyes met across the digital divide, a moment of connection amidst the chaos. Then Raymond turned to his assembled team, human and Illyrian alike. Let's move out, he said, leading them into the alien city now torn by conflict. The future of two worlds hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. An option. As Raymond led his team through the chaotic streets of the Illyrian capital, the enormity of their task took a toll upon him. The defense installation loomed ahead, a colossal structure of shimmering crystal and pulsating energy fields. Its towering spires pierced the alien sky, a testament to Illyrian technological prowess. Raymond's mixed team of humans and Illyrians moved swiftly through the debris-strewn streets, their every sense on high alert. "We've got incoming," shouted Sergeant Chun, one of the human security experts. A barrage of energy blasts erupted from a nearby building, forcing the team to take cover behind a fallen transport vehicle. Raymond pressed himself against the cool metal, his mind racing. He turned to Commander Vex, whose skin flickered with patterns of tension and concentration. "We need to split up," Raymond said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. "I'll take a team to flank them from the east. Can you provide cover fire?" Vex nodded, his alien features set in unshakable focus. "Agreed. We'll draw their attention while you move in." As Raymond gathered a small group for the flanking maneuver, he caught a glimpse of the defense installation's entrance. Rebel forces had fortified their position, energy barriers shimmering in the air around them. "Listen up," Raymond addressed his team. A mix of human and Illyrian faces turned towards him. "We're going to use that maintenance access point." He gestured to a barely visible hatch on the building's eastern side. "It'll be tight, but it's our best shot at getting inside undetected." As they prepared to move out, Raymond's thoughts briefly turned to Cora. He pushed aside his worry, focusing on the task at hand. The fate of two worlds rested on their success. With a nod to Vex, Raymond led his team into action. They darted from cover to cover, energy blasts searing the air around them. The unfamiliar Illyrian weapons in their hands hummed with power, a stark reminder of the alien world they now fought to save. Inside the High Council chambers, Queen Cora stood before a holographic communication array, her posture regal despite the tension evident in her shimmering skin. Zara and her faction crowded around her, their voices raised in protest. "You cannot address the people now," Zara hissed, her eyes narrowed. "It will only incite more violence." Cora met Zara's gaze unflinchingly. "Our people need to hear the truth, Zara. They need to know that humans and Illyrians are working together to save our world." Arch-Counselor Zorn stepped forward, his imposing figure silencing the dissenters. "Let her speak," he commanded. "We have seen the humans fight alongside us. Perhaps it is time we truly listened." As Cora began her address, her voice carried across the city through holographic projectors and communication devices. "People of Illyria," she began, her tone firm yet compassionate, "we face a grave threat from within. But in this dark hour, we have found unexpected allies." Outside the defense installation, Raymond's team reached the maintenance hatch. An Illyrian technician, her fingers dancing over the alien control panel, worked to bypass the security protocols. Sweat beaded on Raymond's forehead as he kept watch, the sounds of battle echoing from the main entrance. With a soft hiss, the hatch slid open. "We're in," Raymond whispered into his comm unit, proceeding to infiltrate. As they moved through the narrow maintenance corridors, the team encountered scattered resistance. In the confined space, the human members' adaptability proved invaluable, their problem-solving skills complementing the Illyrians' technological expertise. Raymond led the way, his senses hyper-aware of every sound and movement. The interior of the installation was a marvel of Illyrian engineering, with pulsating energy conduits and holographic displays lining the walls. Despite the urgency of their mission, he couldn't help but be awed by the advanced technology surrounding them. Meanwhile, in a makeshift laboratory within the High Council building, Dr. Elena Volkov worked feverishly. Her human mind raced to comprehend the complexities of Illyrian biology as she sought a countermeasure to the rebels' biological weapon. "This pathogen," she muttered, her eyes fixed on a holographic display of alien DNA sequences. "It's like nothing I've ever seen." But as she delved deeper into her analysis, connections began to form. Her research into Illyrian physiology, combined with her expertise in gene therapy, led her down promising paths. Back at the defense installation, Raymond's team fought their way closer to the central control room. The rebels, caught off guard by the attack from within, struggled to mount an effective defense. Raymond and Commander Vex, who had joined them after breaking through the main entrance, moved in perfect sync, their contrasting combat styles forming a formidable duo. As they approached the control room, a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and imposing, with eyes that burned with fanatical intensity, the rebel leader Crack stood before them. "So," Crack sneered, his voice dripping with contempt, "the human pet and the traitor commander. How fitting that you should fall together." Raymond raised his weapon, his voice steady. "It's over, Crax. Stand down." Crax's response was a barrage of energy blasts that forced Raymond and Vex to dive for cover. The control room erupted into chaos as Crax's elite guards joined the fray. As the battle raged, Queen Cora's voice continued to resonate throughout the city. She spoke of unity, of the strength found in diversity, and of the brave humans and Illyrians fighting side by side to save their world. In the lab, Dr. Volkov's eyes widened as her latest simulation yielded promising results. "This could work," she breathed, her fingers flying over the holographic interface as she refined the formula. The clash in the control room reached a fever pitch. Raymond and Vex fought back-to-back, their movements synchronized as if they had trained together for years. Human ingenuity and Illyrian prowess combined to slowly turn the tide against Crax and his guards. As Raymond ducked under an energy blast and returned fire, he caught a glimpse of a control panel. If they could reach it, they might be able to restore the planet's defensive systems and coordinate with loyal forces across Illyria. With a nod to Vex, Raymond began to push towards a panel, the fate of two worlds hanging in the balance. Balance. Raymond's finger tightened on the trigger, his eyes locked on Crax's imposing figure. In that moment, time seemed to slow. A brilliant flash of energy erupted from Raymond's weapon, striking Crax squarely in the chest. The rebel leader staggered, his eyes wide with disbelief, before collapsing to the ground. The remaining guards, seeing their leader fall, quickly surrendered. Commander Vex rushed to the control panel, his fingers dancing across the alien interface. "We regained control of the planetary defense systems," he announced, his skin pulsing with patterns of relief and triumph. Raymond allowed himself a moment to catch his breath, the adrenaline of battle still coursing through his veins. He activated his comm unit. "Central Command, this is Raymond. The defense installation is secure. I repeat, we have control." As the sounds of battle faded across the city, replaced by the cheers of loyal Illyrian citizens, Raymond couldn't help but feel a sense of hope for the future. The crisis had been averted, but he knew this was only the beginning. In the days that followed, Raymond found himself thrust into the heart of Illyrian politics. Queen Cora, recognizing the vital role humans had played in quelling the rebellion, called for a special session of the High Council to discuss the future of human-Illyrian relations. Raymond stood before the assembled counselors, his voice steady as he addressed the alien dignitaries. The events of the past few days have shown us the strength that comes from cooperation. Humans and Illyrians, working together, were able to overcome a threat that neither of us could have faced alone. Queen Cora nodded in agreement, her eyes meeting Raymond's for a brief, charged moment. "I propose we formalize our cultural exchange program," she declared. "Let us build upon the foundation of trust and mutual understanding that has been forged in the crucible of crisis." The council chambers erupted in a mix of excited chatter and concerned murmurs. Arch-Counselor Zorn raised a hand for silence. "This is a momentous decision, Your Majesty, one that will shape the future of our people for generations to come." As the council debated, Raymond found himself working closely with Queen Cora to address the remaining pockets of rebel resistance. Their long hours of strategic planning often stretched late into the night, their shared quarters on the Illyrian battlecruiser becoming a second home. One evening, as they pored over intelligence reports, Raymond became acutely aware of Cora's proximity. The soft glow of the holographic displays cast an ethereal light on her alien features, highlighting the intricate patterns that danced across her skin. Cora looked up, catching Raymond's gaze. For a moment, neither spoke, the air between them charged with unspoken tension. Finally, Cora broke the silence. "Raymond, I find myself increasingly drawn to you. These feelings, they're unfamiliar to me." Raymond's heart raced. "Cora, I feel it too. But our positions, our responsibilities." She reached out, her hand hovering just above his. "I know. The weight of two worlds rests upon our shoulders. Yet I cannot deny what I feel." Their moment of intimacy was interrupted by an urgent communication. Commander Vex's holographic form materialized before them. "Your Majesty, Raymond, we receive intelligence about a rebel stronghold on one of our colony worlds. The High Council has authorized a joint human-Illyrian task force to investigate." Raymond straightened, pushing aside his personal feelings. "Understood, Commander. When do we leave?" "Immediately," Vex replied. "You and I will co-lead the operation. Our team is assembling as we speak." As Raymond prepared for the mission, he couldn't shake the memory of Cora's touch, the intensity of her gaze. He knew that whatever lay ahead, his relationship with the Illyrian Queen had irrevocably changed. The Illyrian battlecruiser cut through the void of space, its massive engines propelling them towards the distant colony world. Raymond stood on the bridge, watching as unfamiliar star systems streaked past the viewports. Commander Vex approached, his expression grave. "Our intelligence suggests the rebels have been developing a new weapon," he said, his voice low. "Something capable of destabilizing planetary cores." Raymond's eyes widened. If they've succeeded, both our worlds could be at risk. As they neared their destination, Raymond briefed the joint human-Illyrian Special Forces team. The mix of alien and human faces before him was a testament to how far they'd come in such a short time. "Remember," he concluded, "we're stronger together. Trust in each other's abilities, and we'll overcome whatever challenges we face." The team nodded in unison, a sense of shared purpose evident in their determined expressions. As the battlecruiser entered orbit around the colony world, Raymond's thoughts briefly turned to Cora. He pushed aside the distraction, focusing on the mission at hand. The future of two species hung in the balance, and failure was not an option. The dropship descended through the planet's atmosphere, its stealth systems engaged to avoid detection. Raymond checked his weapon, an Illyrian energy rifle modified for human use. Beside him, Vex's skin rippled with pre-mission tension. 30 seconds to touchdown. The pilot's voice crackled over the comm. Raymond took a deep breath, centering himself. As the dropship's doors hissed open, he led his team into the alien landscape, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in their quest to secure peace between their worlds. As Raymond and his team secured the colony, they received an urgent transmission from Illyria. The message was clear. Their presence was required back on the homeworld immediately. The return journey was tense, with speculation running rife among the crew. Upon landing, Raymond and Commander Vex were whisked away to an emergency session of the High Council. Queen Cora stood at the center of the chamber, her eyes finding Raymond's as he entered. "We've detected anomalous energy readings in your solar system," she announced without preamble. "The High Council, in cooperation with Earth's United Nations, has decided to launch an expedition to investigate." Raymond's mind raced with the implications. What kind of anomalies are we talking about? Arch-Counselor Zorn stepped forward, activating a holographic display. "Our long-range sensors have picked up unusual fluctuations near several of your planets. The origin and nature of these phenomena are unknown, but they bear similarities to ancient Illyrian legends of cosmic seeds." Queen Cora's gaze swept the room. "I will personally lead the Illyrian contingent of this mission." A murmur of concern rippled through the assembled counselors. "Your Majesty," one of them protested, "the potential dangers are precisely why I must go," Cora cut in, her tone brooking no argument. "This mission is too important to delegate." Raymond found himself nodding in agreement. "If Queen Cora is going, then I volunteer to represent humanity in this endeavor." The following days were a whirlwind of preparation. A new vessel, the Starweaver, was quickly outfitted for the mission. Its sleek design incorporated both human and Illyrian technologies, a testament to their growing cooperation. As Raymond oversaw the loading of supplies, he was pleasantly surprised to see a familiar face. "Dr. Volkov, I didn't expect to see you here." Elena Volkov smiled, her eyes alight with excitement. "When I heard about the mission, I couldn't stay away. My research into human-Illyrian genetic similarities might prove useful out there." The launch day arrived amid a flurry of diplomatic functions and public appearances. Raymond found himself standing beside Queen Cora at podium after podium, acutely aware of her presence. The chemistry between them was palpable, drawing curious glances from humans and Illyrians alike. As they prepared to board the Starweaver, a series of alarming incidents threatened to derail the mission. First, a critical navigation component was found sabotaged. Then, an attempt was made to breach the ship's security protocols. Raymond and Commander Vex worked tirelessly to uncover the source of the sabotage. Their investigation led them to a hidden network with ties to the rebel faction they had faced on the colony world. "They're trying to prevent further cooperation between our species," Vex growled, his skin rippling with anger. Raymond nodded grimly. "We'll need to be on high alert throughout the mission." On the eve of their departure, Raymond found himself drawn to the Starweaver's observation deck. The vast expanse of stars stretched out before him, a glittering promise of the unknown. He sensed Cora's presence before she spoke. "Beautiful, isn't it?" she said softly, moving to stand beside him. Raymond turned to face her, struck once again by her alien beauty. "Cora, I—" Words failed him as she stepped closer, her hand brushing his. The air between them seemed to crackle with energy. Without conscious thought, Raymond found himself leaning in, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that sent shockwaves through his entire being. The kiss deepened, passion overtaking reason. Their bodies pressed together, an intimate exploration of familiar yet alien terrain. As they came together, Raymond marveled at the unexpected compatibility of their physiology, even as questions about the potential consequences of their union flitted through his mind. Later, as they lay entwined, Cora traced patterns on Raymond's skin. "Whatever we face out there," she murmured, "we face it together." The Star Weaver lifted off the next day, carrying its crew of humans and Illyrians into the vast unknown. As they pushed deeper into the solar system, the ship's sensors began picking up strange energy signatures. "It's coming from the vicinity of Jupiter," Dr. Volkov reported, her fingers flying over the control panel. Raymond exchanged a glance with Cora. "Take us in closer," he ordered. As they approached the gas giant, a massive structure came into view, hidden within the swirling storms of Jupiter's atmosphere. Its design was unlike anything Raymond had ever seen, clearly artificial yet utterly alien. Suddenly, the Star Weaver shuddered violently. Warning klaxons blared as the ship was caught in a powerful energy field emanating from the structure. "We're losing control," the pilot shouted. "It's pulling us in." Raymond gripped the command chair, his mind racing. "All hands, battle stations. Cora, we need to—" His words were cut off as the ship lurched again, drawn inexorably towards a mysterious object. As they neared its surface, the crew watched in awe as the structure's outer layer seemed to peel away, revealing a vast interior filled with thousands of glowing pods. "Life signs," Dr. Volkov gasped, staring at her readings. "Thousands of them in some kind of stasis." Before anyone could respond, one of the pods began to pulse with intense light. The crew watched, transfixed, as the pod split open, revealing its occupant, a tall, androgynous figure with iridescent skin and multiple limbs. The being's eyes opened, meeting Raymond's gaze across the void of space. In that moment, he knew that everything was about to change. Change. In that instant, a powerful force gripped the Star Weaver, pulling it inexorably toward the alien structure. "All hands, brace for impact," Raymond shouted, gripping his command chair as the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared throughout the vessel as it was drawn into the massive construct. The crew watched in awe as the structure's outer layer peeled away, revealing a cavernous interior filled with thousands of glowing pods. "Life signs detected," Dr. Elena Volkov reported, her eyes wide as she studied her console. "Thousands of them, all in some form of stasis." Before anyone could respond, one of the pods began to pulse with intense light. The crew watched, transfixed, as it split open, revealing its occupant, a tall, androgynous figure with iridescent skin and multiple limbs. The being's eyes opened, meeting Raymond's gaze across the void of space. An eerie silence fell over the bridge as human, Illyrian, and the newly awakened alien regarded each other. Queen Cora stepped forward, her voice steady despite the tension. "We need to establish communication." Dr. Volkov nodded, her fingers flying over her console. "I'm analyzing the light patterns emitted by its skin. There seems to be a structured pattern to the bioluminescence." Hours passed as the Star Weaver remained trapped in the energy field surrounding the alien structure. The crew worked tirelessly, with Dr. Volkov at the forefront, attempting to decipher the alien's method of communication. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Dr. Volkov exclaimed, "I've got it! A rudimentary translation algorithm. It's not perfect, but it should allow for basic communication." Raymond and Queen Cora exchanged glances before approaching the view screen. The alien being regarded them with what appeared to be curiosity. "Greetings," Raymond began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "We come in peace." The alien's skin rippled with patterns of light. Dr. Volkov's algorithm translated, "I am ZYX. We are Lumina." Over the next few hours, ZYX shared the history of their species. The Lumina, an ancient civilization, had entered stasis millennia ago to escape a catastrophe in their home galaxy. The structure they now found themselves in was one of many Ark ships, programmed to awaken when they detected sufficiently advanced civilizations nearby. As ZYX continued to share information about Lumina technology and knowledge, Raymond and Queen Cora realized the potential benefits and risks this encounter posed for both their species. This could change everything, Cora murmured to Raymond. But we must be cautious. Such advanced knowledge could upset the balance between our worlds. Raymond nodded, acutely aware of the delicate political situation they now faced. We need to find a way to work together, to share this discovery equally. While the diplomatic discussions continued, Chief Engineer Marcus Young and his team worked frantically to counteract the energy field holding the Starweaver in place. "Captain," Marcus called over the comm, "we've made a discovery. The field is powered by an unknown element within the alien structure. I think we might be able to disrupt it with a precisely calibrated burst from our quantum drive." "What are the risks?" Raymond asked, his brow furrowing. Marcus hesitated. "It could damage our systems, sir, but it might be our only way out of here." As Raymond weighed their options, he noticed ZYX's gaze fixed intently upon him. The alien skin pulsed with rapid patterns of light, drawing closer to Raymond. Dr. Volkov's eyes widened as she interpreted the display. "Captain, I think ZYX is attempting to initiate a mating ritual with you." Raymond froze, acutely aware of Queen Cora's sharp intake of breath beside him. The moment stretched, thick with tension and unspoken emotions. I'm flattered, ZYX, Raymond stammered, taking a step back. "But I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding." As Dr. Volkov hurriedly explained the situation to the confused Lumina, Raymond turned to find Cora's eyes boring into him. The incident had brought their own complex relationship to the forefront, the air between them charged with undedication feelings. "Cora, Raymond began, but was cut off by a sudden lurch of the ship. "Sir," Marcus's voice crackled over the comm. "The structure is powering up. Its engines are coming online." Raymond sprinted to the command console, Cora close behind. The massive ark was indeed coming to life, ancient systems awakening after millennia of dormancy. "It's pulling us in deeper," Cora observed, her voice tense. "We need to make a decision, Raymond. Do we attempt to break free, or do we stay and risk being trapped inside?" As they grappled with the decision, long-range sensors lit up with new information. "Captain," the tactical officer reported, "we're detecting the approach of the joint human-Illyrian fleet. But there's something else. Stealth ships, origin unknown." Raymond and Cora shared a look of understanding. The shadowy organization opposing their mission had made its move. With time running out and danger closing in from all sides, Raymond took a deep breath. The fate of their crew, their mission, and potentially the future of human-Illyrian Lumina relations hung on his next words. "Marcus," he said, his voice steady, "prepare the quantum drive. We're going to attempt to break free." He turned to Cora, his eyes meeting hers. Together. As the crew scrambled to their stations and the alien ark continued to pull them deeper, Raymond and Cora stood side by side on the bridge. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as one. Allies. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as one. Raymond turned to Marcus, his voice steady despite the tension coursing through him. "Initiate the quantum drive burst. Let's break free of this field." Marcus nodded grimly, his fingers flying over the control panel. "Aye, Captain. Initiating quantum drive in 3, 2, 1. The Starweaver shuddered violently, the hull creaking under the immense strain as the quantum drive engaged. Warning klaxons blared throughout the ship as non-critical systems began to fail. "Hull integrity at 82% and dropping," reported the tactical officer, her voice tight with concern. Raymond gripped the arms of his command chair, feeling Cora's presence beside him like a steadying force. Together, they coordinated the crew's efforts, their complementary leadership styles proving crucial in maintaining order during the crisis. "Reroute power from non-essential systems to structural integrity," Cora ordered, her voice calm but authoritative. As the quantum drive reached its peak output, the energy field surrounding the Starweaver began to fluctuate. Suddenly, the alien structure reacted, emitting a series of powerful energy pulses that rocked the ship. "Captain," Dr. Volkov called out, her eyes wide with realization. "We might be able to use ZYX's bioluminescent communication to interface with the structure systems. It could calm its defensive responses." Raymond nodded quickly. "Do it." Volkov worked feverishly to construct a makeshift biointerface, connecting ZYX to the ship's computer. The luminous skin pulsed with rapid patterns of light as it communicated with the ancient Ark. The effect was almost immediate. The energy pulses from the structure began to subside, and the Starweaver system stabilized. "We're breaking free," Marcus shouted triumphantly. But their victory was short-lived. As they cleared the energy field, a massive power surge tore through the ship, overloading several key systems. The lights flickered and died, plunging the bridge into darkness before emergency power kicked in. "Life support and artificial gravity are offline," reported the engineering officer, her voice strained. "We've got minutes before the environment becomes uninhabitable." Raymond and Cora exchanged a quick glance before springing into action. "All hands, emergency protocols," Raymond ordered. "We need life support back online now." As the crew scrambled to restore critical functions, the ship's long-range sensors lit up with new contacts. "Sir, the joint human-Illyrian fleet has arrived," the tactical officer reported. "They're dispatching repair crews and medical personnel." Raymond allowed himself a moment of relief before focusing on the task at hand. But that relief was short-lived as another alert sounded. "Multiple stealth ships decloaking near Jupiter's moons," the tactical officer called out, her voice tense. "They're launching weapons." The view screen lit up with weapons fire as the newly arrived fleet moved to intercept. Illyrian battlecruisers provided cover fire, while human ships maneuvered to intercept the incoming projectiles. "It's them," Cora said quietly, her eyes meeting Raymond's. "The organization opposing our alliance." Raymond nodded grimly, watching as the space around them erupted into a dazzling and terrifying light show of weapons fire and explosions. "We need to get our systems back online," he said, turning to Marcus. "How long until we have weapons and shields?" Before Marcus could answer, ZYX's bioluminescent patterns intensified. Dr. Volkov, still monitoring the biointerface, gasped. "Captain, ZYX is saying that the awakening process has begun for many of the Lumina in stasis," she reported urgently. "If the structure sustains significant damage from this attack, we could lose countless lives." The weight of this revelation settled heavily on Raymond's shoulders. He shared a look with Cora, seeing his own persistence reflected in her eyes. "Open a channel to the attacking ships," Raymond ordered, his expression resolute. "We need to try and negotiate a ceasefire." As the communication officer worked to establish a link, a stray shot from one of the enemy vessels struck the alien structure. A chain of explosions rippled along its outer hull, threatening to destabilize the entire Ark. ZYX's skin pulsed rapidly, its patterns becoming almost frantic. Without warning, the Lumina fully connected with the structure systems through the biointerface. "What's happening?" Cora demanded, watching as ZYX's form began to flicker and fade. Dr. Volkov's eyes widened in realization. "ZYX is activating the Ark's ancient defenses," she explained, her voice filled with awe and concern. "But the strain, it's killing them." As they watched, a powerful energy shield enveloped the structure, protecting it from further damage. But ZYX's bioluminescent patterns grew dimmer with each passing second. Raymond moved quickly to the alien's side, Cora right behind him. They worked together, trying desperately to stabilize ZYX's failing life signs. "Stay with us," Raymond urged, his hands moving swiftly over the medical equipment Dr. Volkov had brought over. Your people need you. We need you. As they fought to save ZYX's life, Raymond became acutely aware of Cora's presence beside him. Their shared concern for the alien, their united efforts in the face of overwhelming odds. It all served to deepen the connection between them. Outside, the battle raged on. The joint human-Illyrian fleet was slowly gaining the upper hand, forcing the enemy ships to retreat. But the victory felt hollow as Raymond and Cora continued their desperate efforts to save ZYX. The luminous light pulsed weakly, barely visible now. Raymond felt a surge of emotions, admiration for ZYX's sacrifice, purpose to save them, and an overwhelming sense of connection to Cora as they worked side by side. As ZYX's life hung in the balance and the consequences of the battle unfolded around them, Raymond knew that whatever came next would change everything, for humans, Illyrians, and Lumina alike. As ZYX's light continued to fade, Raymond and Cora worked frantically to stabilize the alien's condition. The battle outside had subsided, but a new crisis was unfolding within the Starweaver. "We're losing them," Dr. Volkov said, her voice strained as she monitored ZYX's rapidly declining vital signs. Her eyes darted between the alien and her medical instruments, searching for a solution. Suddenly, her expression changed, a spark of realization lighting up her features. "Captain, I have an idea," she said, turning to Raymond. "ZYX's bioenergy is depleted from activating the Ark's defenses. If we could transfer energy directly from a compatible biological source, we might be able to stabilize their condition." Raymond didn't hesitate. "I'll do it," he said, already moving towards a makeshift medical bay they had set up on the bridge. "Raymond, wait," Cora said, grabbing his arm. Her eyes were filled with concern. "This could be dangerous. We don't know how it might affect you." He placed his hand over hers, his gaze steady. "We have to try, Cora. ZYX sacrificed everything to protect us and their people. I can't stand by and do nothing." After a moment of tension, Cora nodded, releasing her grip. "Then let me assist," she said, her voice firm with purpose. Dr. Volkov quickly set up a biotransfer chamber, connecting Raymond to ZYX through a complex array of tubes and sensors. As the procedure began, Raymond felt a strange tingling sensation spreading through his body. "Vital signs stabilizing," Dr. Volkov reported, her eyes fixed on the monitors. "But Raymond's readings are fluctuating. We need to monitor him closely." Cora stood by Raymond's side, her hand resting on his shoulder. As the energy transfer continued, she felt a sudden jolt, as if an electric current had passed between them. Their eyes met, and in that instant, something extraordinary happened. The world around them seemed to fade away, replaced by a swirling vortex of colors and sensations. Raymond felt his consciousness expanding, intertwining with Cora's in a way that defied explanation. He saw flashes of her childhood on Illyria, felt the weight of her responsibilities as queen, and understood her hopes and fears for her people. Cora, in turn, experienced Raymond's life on Earth, his journey through the ranks of the space fleet, and his unwavering dedication to forging peace between their species. The barriers between them dissolved, revealing a shared purpose and a deep, unspoken connection that had been growing since their first meeting. As quickly as it had begun, the experience ended. Raymond gasped, his eyes flying open as he returned to full consciousness. Beside him, Cora stumbled slightly, steadying herself against the medical bay. "What was that?" Raymond asked, his voice hoarse. Dr. Volkov looked up from her instruments, her expression a mix of confusion and excitement. "I'm not sure, Captain. The energy fields generated by the transfer seem to have caused some kind of neural link between you and Queen Cora. It's unprecedented." Before they could discuss it further, a weak pulse of light drew their attention. ZYX's bioluminescent patterns had strengthened, their glow slowly returning to its former vibrancy. It worked. Cora said, a smile of relief spreading across her face. "They're stabilizing." As the medical team continued to monitor ZYX's recovery, Raymond and Cora found themselves drawn to each other, the echo of their shared experience still reverberating between them. They moved to a quiet corner of the bridge, their bodies close, voices low. "I saw everything," Raymond said, his eyes searching Cora's face. "Your world, your people. I understand now, in a way I never could before." Cora nodded, her hand finding his. "And you, Raymond, the vastness of your oceans, the diversity of your cultures. It's overwhelming." Their gazes locked, and in that moment, the last barriers between them crumbled. Raymond leaned in, his lips meeting Cora's in a kiss that seemed to bridge not just a gap between their species, but between stars themselves. A sudden alarm from the science station broke the moment. They turned to see Dr. Volkov frantically working at her console. "Captain, Your Majesty," she called out, her voice urgent. "The energy transfer. It's triggered something in the Lumina arc. The stasis pods are activating. Thousands of them." Raymond and Cora shared a look of concern and purpose. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, their bond now stronger than ever. "Alert Admiral Tanaka and General Lysandra," Raymond ordered, moving back to the command chair. "We need to prepare for a massive first contact scenario." As the Starweaver's crew sprang into action, coordinating with the joint human-Illyrian fleet, Raymond felt a new sense of purpose. The future of 3 species now hung in the balance, and he and Cora were at the center of it all. The alien ark loomed before them, its ancient systems humming with new life. Inside, thousands of lumina were beginning to stir, awakening to a galaxy far different from the one they had left behind. As Raymond watched the first transport shuttles prepare to dock with the Starweaver, he knew that the real challenges were only just beginning. As the first transport shuttles docked with the Starweaver, Raymond turned to Cora, their shared experience still fresh in his mind. "We're about to make history," he said, his voice low and intense. "Are you ready?" Cora nodded, her eyes reflecting the same mix of excitement and apprehension that Raymond felt. "Together," she replied, squeezing his hand. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity as the Starweaver's crew worked tirelessly to accommodate the awakening Lumina. Dr. Volkov and her team set up temporary quarters, while Marcus coordinated with the engineering crew to ensure the ship's life support systems could handle the sudden influx of new passengers. As the first group of Lumina boarded the Starweaver, Raymond and Cora stood at the airlock to greet them. The aliens moved with fluid grace, their bioluminescent patterns shifting in mesmerizing patterns. Among them was a Lumina that seemed to radiate an aura of authority and wisdom. "Welcome aboard the Starweaver," Raymond said, stepping forward. "I'm Captain Raymond Chin, and this is Queen Cora of Illyria." The lead Lumina's skin pulsed with a series of rapid, complex patterns. Dr. Volkov, standing nearby with a translation device, spoke up. "They say their name is Lyra, and they're a scientist specializing in xenobiology. They express gratitude for our assistance and are eager to learn about our current galactic situation." As the Starweaver prepared to depart Jupiter's orbit, Raymond called a meeting in the ship's conference room. Around the table sat key members of his crew, Queen Cora, and a small delegation of Lumina, including Lyra. "Our journey to Earth will take approximately 2 weeks," Raymond began. "During this time, we need to prepare the Lumina for their introduction to our worlds. Admiral Tanaka and General Lysandra will be coordinating with Earth's defense forces to ensure a smooth arrival." Cora leaned forward, her voice carrying the weight of her royal authority. "We must also use this time to learn from the Lumina. Their knowledge and technology could be invaluable to both our peoples." Over the next several days, the Starweaver became a hub of intense cultural exchange. Humans and Illyrians worked side by side, conducting orientation sessions for the Lumina. The aliens proved to be quick learners, their natural curiosity driving them to absorb vast amounts of information about the current state of galactic affairs. Lyra, in particular, took a keen interest in the interactions between Raymond and Cora. The luminous scientists often observed them during meetings or shared meals, their bioluminescent patterns shifting in what seemed to be deep contemplation. On the 5th day of their journey, Lyra approached Raymond and Cora as they were reviewing reports in the captain's ready room. The alien skin pulsed with excitement as Dr. Volkov translated. "Lyra has a proposal," Dr. Volkov said, her eyes widening as she processed the Lumina's communication. "They believe they can use Lumina biotechnology to create a temporary physiological adaptation that would allow you two to achieve greater physical compatibility." Raymond and Cora exchanged startled glances. The implications of Lyra's offer were enormous, both personally and diplomatically. What exactly would this entail? Cora asked, her voice carefully neutral. As Lyra explained through Dr. Volkov, Raymond felt a mix of fascination and apprehension. The procedure would involve a carefully calibrated application of Lumina biomanipulative technology, temporarily altering certain aspects of their physiology to enhance compatibility between human and Illyrian biology. "This is a significant decision," Raymond said, meeting Cora's gaze. "We need time to consider the implications." Over the next day, Raymond and Cora engaged in deep discussions about Lyra's proposal. They weighed the potential benefits against the risks, considering both the personal and political ramifications. "This could be a powerful symbol of unity between our species," Cora said, her voice thoughtful. "But it's not without risk." Raymond nodded, running a hand through his hair. "We'd be the first to undergo something like this. The unknown factors are considerable." In the end, their shared commitment to strengthening the alliance between their peoples won out over their personal reservations. They agreed to participate in Lyra's experiment, recognizing its potential to bridge the gap between humans and Illyrians in a way never before possible. The procedure took place in the Starweaver's medical bay, with Dr. Volkov and a team of Lumina scientists overseeing the process. As Raymond lay on the bio bed, he felt a tingling sensation spread through his body. Beside him, Cora's skin shimmered with a faint iridescence, a sign of the changes taking place within her. As the procedure progressed, Raymond became aware of new sensations. His perception seemed to sharpen, colors becoming more vivid and sounds more distinct. But the most startling change was his newfound awareness of Cora. He could sense her presence in a way that went beyond mere physical proximity, as if some invisible connection had formed between them. Cora's eyes widened as she met Raymond's gaze, and he knew she was experiencing something similar. "Raymond," she whispered, reaching out to touch his hand. The moment their skin made contact, a jolt of energy passed between them, intense and exhilarating. Dr. Volkov monitored their vital signs closely, her expression a mix of scientific curiosity and concern. "Fascinating," she murmured, studying the readouts. "Your neural patterns are showing increased synchronization. It's as if your nervous systems are learning to communicate with each other." As Raymond and Cora adjusted to their altered physiology, the Starweaver continued its journey towards Earth. The ship's long-range sensors, constantly scanning for potential threats, suddenly lit up with multiple contacts. "Captain, to the bridge," came the urgent call over the ship's communication system. Raymond and Cora rushed to the command center, their movements perfectly in sync. As they entered, the tactical officer turned to them, her face grim. "Sir, we have detected a fleet of unidentified vessels approaching Earth at high speed," she reported. "Their energy signatures match those of the ships that attacked us near Jupiter." Raymond's mind raced as he assessed the situation. The shadowy anti-cooperation organization had made its move, and now Earth itself was in danger. As he opened a channel to alert Admiral Tanaka and Earth's defense forces, he felt Cora's presence at his side, their newfound connection humming with shared purpose and perseverance. The Starweaver accelerated towards Earth, racing against time to confront the approaching threat. As the blue planet grew larger on the console, Raymond and Cora knew that the true test of their enhanced abilities and the future of human-Illyrian-Lumina relations was about to begin. As the Star Weaver raced towards Earth, Raymond and Cora coordinated their efforts with Admiral Tanaka and Earth's defense forces. The enemy fleet loomed closer, their intentions unknown but certainly hostile. "We're receiving a priority transmission from Earth," Marcus announced, his fingers flying over the communications console. Raymond nodded. "Put it through." The view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern face of the UN Secretary-General. "Captain Chen, Queen Cora, we've been monitoring the situation. The Security Council has convened an emergency session of the General Assembly to address this crisis. Your presence is requested immediately upon your arrival." "Understood, Madam Secretary," Raymond replied. "We'll be there as soon as we can." As the Star Weaver entered Earth's orbit, Raymond turned to Cora. Their newfound connection hummed between them, a silent understanding passing between their eyes. "Ready?" he asked. Cora nodded, her expression resolute. "Let's show them what our alliance can do." The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. The Star Weaver docked at the orbital station, and Raymond, Cora, and a small delegation of Lumina, including Lyra, boarded a shuttle bound for New York City. As they descended through Earth's atmosphere, Raymond briefed the group on protocol for addressing the General Assembly. Lyra listened intently, their bioluminescent patterns shifting in what Raymond had come to recognize as deep concentration. The shuttle touched down on the landing pad atop the UN building. As they disembarked, Raymond was struck by the gravity of the moment. Representatives from 3 distinct species were about to address the leaders of Earth together for the first time in human history. Inside, they were ushered to a waiting area adjacent to the General Assembly Hall. The muffled sounds of heated debate filtered through the walls. Raymond paced the room, his mind racing with the weight of what he was about to do. Cora placed a hand on his arm, and he felt a wave of calm wash over him through their connection. "We're in this together," she said softly. Before Raymond could respond, the doors opened and a UN aide appeared. "They're ready for you," she announced. The hall fell silent as Raymond, Cora, and Lyra took the stage. Thousands of eyes watched them, and millions more viewed the proceedings via global broadcast. Raymond stepped up to the podium, took a deep breath, and began to speak. His words flowed with a passion and clarity that surprised even him. He spoke of the benefits of interspecies cooperation, of the technological advancements that could be achieved through collaboration. As he concluded, he saw nods of agreement from many of the assembled delegates. Cora took the podium next, her regal presence commanding the attention of the entire hall. She spoke eloquently of cultural enrichment, of the strength that comes from diversity, and of the Illyrian Empire's commitment to peace and mutual understanding. Finally, Lyra stepped forward. The luminous scientists raised their hands, and suddenly the air above the stage shimmered. A breathtaking holographic display materialized, showcasing the peaceful intentions of the Lumina people through a series of intricate, moving images. As the display faded and Lyra stepped back, a hush fell over the assembly. For a moment, it seemed as if the entire world held its breath, waiting to see how humanity would respond to this unprecedented moment of interspecies diplomacy. The silence was shattered by a deafening explosion. Raymond's enhanced reflexes kicked in immediately. He grabbed Cora and Duff for cover as debris rained down from the damaged ceiling. Through their link, he sensed her alertness, her body tensing for action. Chaos erupted in the hall. Delegates scrambled for exits as smoke filled the air. Raymond's military training took over, his mind quickly assessing the situation. "We need to evacuate the building," he shouted to Cora over the din of screaming and falling rubble. She nodded, her eyes scanning the room. "The main exits are blocked. We'll have to find another way." As they began to move, Guiding shell-shocked delegates toward safety, Raymond spotted a group of armed individuals entering the hall. Their movements were coordinated, purposeful. This was no random attack. "Hostiles at 2 o'clock," he muttered to Cora. Through their mental link, they formulated a plan without speaking a word. They split up, each taking a different route through the chaos, their goal to flank the intruders and protect as many people as possible. Raymond's heart raced as he ducked behind overturned chairs and debris, making his way closer to the armed group. He could sense Cora's presence, moving in tandem with him on the other side of the room. As he approached, he overheard snippets of conversation from the attackers. "Find the Secretary General and the alien delegates." One of them barked. "We'll show the world what happens when we let these creatures into our home." Raymond's blood ran cold. These weren't just terrorists. They were extremists with a specific anti-alien agenda. And they were here to make a statement. He locked eyes with Cora across the room. In that moment, they both knew. The fate of interspecies relations hung in the balance, and they were the only ones who could stop this attack from becoming a galactic incident. With a shared nod of willpower, they sprang into action, their enhanced abilities about to be put to the ultimate test. As Raymond and Cora moved to confront the attackers, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. "Captain Chun, Your Majesty," Dr. Volkov called out, her voice strained with urgency. "We must evacuate immediately. The Lumina have detected more hostiles approaching." Raymond and Cora exchanged a quick glance, their enhanced connection allowing them to communicate without words. They knew they couldn't risk a prolonged confrontation, not with the lives of so many delegates at stake. "Fall back," Raymond ordered, gesturing for Cora to follow Dr. Volkov. He covered their retreat, using his heightened reflexes to dodge debris and incoming fire. As they made their way to the emergency exit, Lyra's bioluminescent form became visible through the smoke. The luminous scientist was guiding a group of shaken delegates to safety, their patterns pulsing with what Raymond now recognized as concern and dedication. Once outside, they were quickly ushered into a waiting transport. As the vehicle sped away from the UN building, Raymond's mind raced with the implications of the attack. The carefully orchestrated assault on such a high-profile gathering could only mean one thing. The Anti-Cooperation Organization was escalating its efforts. Hours later, safe in a secure facility, Raymond and Cora stood before a holographic display of the Illyrian High Council. The expressions on the alien faces were grim as they delivered their message. "Queen Cora," one of the counselors spoke, their voice tinged with urgency. "Your presence is required on our homeworld immediately. Recent events have destabilized our political landscape, and your leadership is needed to maintain order." Cora's posture stiffened, her sense of duty warring with her desire to remain and address the crisis on Earth. Raymond felt her internal conflict through their connection, a mixture of frustration and resignation. "I understand," Cora replied, her voice steady despite her turmoil. "I will depart as soon as possible." As the transmission ended, Raymond turned to Cora. "I'm coming with you," he said, his tone brooking no argument. "As Earth's diplomatic representative, my presence could help strengthen our alliance in the face of this new threat." Cora's relief was palpable, both through their link and in the slight relaxation of her shoulders. "Thank you, Raymond. Your support will be invaluable." Within hours, arrangements were made. Dr. Volkov and a small team of human scientists were added to the mission, tasked with studying the lingering effects of Lyra's procedure on Raymond and Cora. As they boarded the Illyrian royal vessel, Raymond couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation mixed with apprehension. The journey to the Illyrian homeworld was tense, filled with strategy meetings and discussions about the implications of the attack on Earth. Dr. Volkov conducted regular tests on Raymond and Cora, documenting the gradual fading of their enhanced abilities. "Fascinating," she murmured, reviewing the latest results. "While your physical enhancements are diminishing, the emotional connection between you remains strong. It's as if your neural patterns have become permanently attuned to each other. Raymond and Cora shared a look, both aware of the profound implications of this discovery. Their relationship had grown beyond mere political alliance, evolving into something deeper and more personal. Their contemplation was interrupted by a sudden blaring of alarms. The ship's captain appeared on the bridge, his face grave. "Your Majesty, Captain Chen, we received a distress signal from a nearby Illyrian colony world. They're under attack by an unknown force." Without hesitation, Cora ordered the ship to change course. As they approached the embattled planet, long-range scans revealed a shocking sight. The attacking ships were unlike anything they had encountered before, their design a bizarre hybrid of human, Illyrian, and Lumina technology. "It can't be," Raymond breathed, studying the tactical display. "Those ships, they're using elements from all three of our species." Cora's eyes narrowed. "The Anti-Cooperation Organization. They've managed to combine our technologies." As they entered orbit, the full scale of the attack became clear. The colony's defenses were crumbling under the assault of the advanced hybrid ships. Fires raged across the surface, and panic distress calls filled the communication channels. Raymond turned to Cora, tenacity etched on his face. "We need to lead a rescue mission. Our enhanced abilities may be fading, but we're still the best equipped to handle this." Cora nodded, already moving towards the shuttle bay. "Agreed. We'll coordinate the evacuation efforts from the ground." As they prepared to descend to the planet's surface, Raymond couldn't shake the feeling that this mission would test not only their abilities, but also the strength of their bond. The fate of the colony, and perhaps the future of human-Illyrian relations, hung in the balance. The shuttle doors hissed open, revealing a world in chaos. Raymond and Cora stepped onto the war-torn surface of the Illyrian colony, their senses immediately assaulted by the acrid smell of smoke and the distant sound of weapons fire. Their remaining enhanced abilities heightened their awareness of the danger surrounding them. "We need to reach the colonial government building," Cora said, her voice steady despite the turmoil around them. "From there, we can coordinate the evacuation and defense efforts." Raymond nodded, his military training kicking in as he scanned their surroundings. "Agreed. Let's move." They made their way through the debris-strewn streets, their movements in perfect sync. Even as their physical enhancements faded, their emotional connection remained strong, allowing them to anticipate each other's actions with uncanny precision. As they approached the government building, a group of panicked civilians came running towards them, pursued by a squad of soldiers in unfamiliar armor. Raymond and Cora reacted instantly, moving to intercept the attackers. The ensuing skirmish was brief but intense. Raymond and Cora fought back-to-back, their coordination flawless, as they disarmed and subdued their opponents. As the last attacker fell, Raymond examined their gear more closely. "This technology," he muttered, his brow furrowing. "It's definitely a hybrid, but there's something else. Something familiar about the design." Before he could ponder further, a nearby explosion rocked the ground. Cora steadied him, her hand lingering on his arm. "We can investigate later. Right now, we need to focus on the evacuation." They pushed on, finally reaching the colonial government building. Inside, they found a scene of controlled chaos as Illyrian officials struggled to manage the crisis. Their arrival brought a palpable sense of relief to the room. As Cora began issuing orders and coordinating with the colony's leaders, Raymond's attention was drawn to a series of tactical displays. Something about the attack pattern seemed off, almost as if his thoughts were interrupted by a priority communication from orbit. The face of Admiral Tanaka appeared on the main screen, her expression grim. "Captain Chen, we've picked up your distress signal and have diverted a fleet to your location. ETA is 30 minutes. What's the situation down there?" Raymond quickly briefed the Admiral, emphasizing the unknown nature of the attackers and their advanced hybrid technology. As he spoke, He couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. Suddenly, Cora appeared at his side, her eyes wide with realization. "Raymond," she said, her voice low and urgent, "I've been reviewing the attack pattern. This isn't just an external threat. Look at the deployment of forces, the timing of the assaults. This bears all the hallmarks of Illyrian military doctrine." Raymond's mind raced as he processed the implications. "You think this is an inside job?" Cora nodded grimly. "Not just an inside job. This level of coordination, the access to our most advanced technologies, this has to be coming from high within the Illyrian military itself." As if in response to their revelation, a new transmission cut through the communication channels. The face that appeared on the screen sent a chill through Raymond's spine and a surge of anger through his connection with Cora. "General Zax," Cora said, her voice cold with controlled fury. The Illyrian general's expression was one of smug satisfaction. "Ah, Queen Cora, how kind of you to join us. And I see you brought your human pet along as well." Raymond felt Cora's anger flare through their link, but her voice remained steady as she addressed the traitor. "Why, Zax? Why betray your own people?" Zax's eyes narrowed. "Betray? I'm saving our people, Your Majesty. Your infatuation with these humans and your so-called alliance has weakened us. It's time for the Illyrian Empire to remember its strength, to stand alone as we once did." As Zax continued his tirade, Raymond's mind was working overtime. The arrival of the Earth fleet could complicate matters further if they misinterpreted the situation. He needed to act fast. "Cora," he said softly, not taking his eyes off the screen where Zax was still ranting, "I need to establish communication with the incoming Earth ships. We have to prevent this from escalating into a full-scale war between our species." Cora nodded, her eyes still fixed on Zax. "Go. I'll handle this." As Raymond moved to a separate communication station, he could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The future of human-Illyrian relations, perhaps even the survival of the fledgling interstellar alliance, hung in the balance. And as he began to transmit his message to the approaching Earth fleet, he knew that the real battle was only just beginning. Raymond took a deep breath, steadying himself as he prepared to address the incoming Earth fleet. The fate of the alliance hung in the balance, and he knew his words could mean the difference between peace and all-out war. As Raymond relayed the complex situation to Admiral Tanaka, Cora continued her tense dialogue with General Zax. The Illyrian Queen's voice remained steady, but Raymond could feel her anger and disappointment through their connection. "Zax, your actions today have endangered countless lives," Cora said, her eyes narrowing. "This betrayal will not stand." The general sneered. "You speak of betrayal, yet you bring aliens to our homeworld and weaken our empire with talk of peace and cooperation." Before Cora could respond, alarms blared throughout the building. A young Illyrian officer burst into the room, his face pale with urgency. "Your Majesty, the enemy ships are retreating, but they're headed directly for the capital." Raymond finished his transmission and turned to Cora. "The Earth fleet will be here soon, but we need to act now. We can't let Zax reach the capital." Cora nodded, her expression grim. "Agreed. We'll take my personal shuttle. It's the fastest way to intercept them." As they raced to the landing pad, Raymond's mind whirled with the implications of what they'd learned. The Anti-Cooperation Organization had infiltrated the highest levels of Illyrian society, and now they were making a bold move against the very heart of the Empire. The shuttle rocketed into the atmosphere, Cora at the controls while Raymond manned the weapon systems. Through the view screen, they could see the hybrid ships ahead, their strange amalgamation of technologies a visual representation of the threat they pose to the Alliance. "We're gaining on them," Cora said, her hands dancing over the controls. "But we won't catch them before they reach the capital." Raymond's teeth gritted. Then we'll have to confront them there. As they approached the gleaming spires of the Illyrian capital, Raymond could see the High Council building in the distance. A crowd had gathered in the plaza before it, their attention fixed on the incoming ships. Cora brought their shuttle in for a landing just as the hybrid ships touched down. General Zax emerged from the lead vessel. Flanked by a group of soldiers in the same unfamiliar armor they'd encountered on the colony, Raymond and Cora sprinted towards the plaza, their movements still in perfect sync despite their fading physical enhancements. They arrived just as Zax began addressing the crowd. "People of Illyria," the general's voice boomed, "I come to you today with grave news. Our beloved empire has been compromised by alien influence." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Raymond could sense the tension in the air, the fear and uncertainty that Zax was expertly manipulating. "Silence, traitor!" Cora's voice cut through the noise as she and Raymond pushed their way to the front. "You dare speak of alien influence when you yourself have conspired with our enemies?" Zax's eyes narrowed as he spotted them. "Ah, the Queen and her human pet arrive. Come to prove my point about the corruption at the heart of our government?" Raymond stepped forward, his voice calm but carrying. "The only corruption here is your betrayal of your own people, General. Your actions have endangered not just Illyria, but the entire alliance." The crowd's attention shifted between Zax and the unlikely pair of Raymond and Cora. Raymond could feel the weight of their gazes, the critical moment hanging in the balance. Suddenly, the doors of the High Council building burst open. A group of counselors emerged, led by a stern-faced Illyrian that Raymond recognized as Counselor Vex. "What is the meaning of this?" Vex demanded, his eyes moving from Zax to Cora and Raymond. Cora straightened, her regal bearing on full display. "Counselor Vex, I stand before you to request an immediate session of the High Council. We face a crisis that threatens not just Illyria, but the entire interstellar alliance." Vex's expression remained impassive, but Raymond noticed a flicker of something. Interest? Concern? In his eyes. "Very well," the counselor said after a moment. "The High Council will convene immediately. General Zax, Queen Cora, Captain Chun, you will all present your cases before us." As they followed Vex into the council chambers, Raymond felt Cora's hand brush against his. Through their connection, he sensed her mix of dedication and apprehension. "Whatever happens in there," Cora said softly, "we face it together." Raymond nodded, squaring his shoulders as they entered the grand hall where the fate of their alliance would be decided. The eyes of the Illyrian High Council were upon them, and Raymond knew that his next words could change the course of interstellar history. History. Raymond took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. Suddenly, a junior officer burst into the council chambers, his face flushed with urgency. "Your Majesty, counselors, we received an emergency transmission from the lunar outpost." The room fell silent as the officer activated a holographic display. A grainy image of an Illyrian scientist appeared, her voice crackling with static. "This is Dr. Zyra from Lunar Base Alpha. We detected a massive energy signature emanating from an unknown structure on the far side of the moon. It appears to be some kind of hidden base. We need immediate." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Counselor Vex turned to Raymond and Cora, his expression grave. "It seems we have more pressing matters to attend to than internal politics. What do you propose?" Raymond and Cora exchanged a quick glance, their shared connection allowing them to formulate a plan almost instantaneously. "We need to assemble a joint task force," Raymond said, his military training kicking in. "Illyrian special forces, human military experts, and Lumina technicians. We'll need the best of each species to tackle this threat." Cora nodded in agreement. "We'll take my personal stealth ship. It's equipped with the latest Alliance technology and should be able to bypass any defensive systems we might encounter." Vex considered for a moment, then nodded. Very well. You have the Council's authorization. Assemble your team and depart immediately. As Raymond and Cora rushed to prepare for the mission, Dr. Elena Volkov intercepted them in the corridor. "I need to run some quick tests before you leave," she insisted, ushering them into a nearby medical bay. "Your physiological changes seem to have stabilized, but I want to make sure you're fit for combat." As Elena conducted her scans, she muttered to herself, her eyes widening at the results. "Fascinating. It appears that your encounter in the royal gardens may have catalyzed these changes. This could open up new possibilities for human-Illyrian compatibility." Raymond felt a flush creep up his neck, but Cora remained composed. "We appreciate your insights, Doctor, but we need to focus on the mission at hand." Within the hour, Raymond and Cora found themselves aboard the sleek Illyrian stealth ship, surrounded by a hand-picked team of Alliance specialists. As they approached the Illyrian moon, tension filled the air. "Energy surge detected," reported a Lumina technician, her bioluminescent tendrils pulsing with data. "The base is activating some kind of defense grid." Raymond leaned over the tactical display. "Engage cloaking systems and prepare Lumina countermeasures. We're going in hot." The ship danced through a web of automated defenses, its Illyrian cloaking technology rendering it nearly invisible. Occasional bursts of Lumina bioelectronic pulses disrupted incoming scans, allowing them to slip past the most dangerous obstacles. As they touched down on the lunar surface, Raymond couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into something far bigger than they'd anticipated. The base loomed before them, a sprawling complex of alien architecture and hybrid technologies. "Stay alert," Cora warned as they disembarked. "We don't know what we're walking into." The team moved swiftly across the lunar landscape, their steps light in the low gravity. Raymond and Cora took point, their movements perfectly synchronized. As they approached the base's entrance, Raymond felt a surge of adrenaline through their shared connection. Inside, the base was a maze of corridors lined with pulsing biomechanical interfaces. The air hummed with energy, and strange symbols flickered across holographic displays. "This technology," whispered an Illyrian soldier. "It's like nothing I've ever seen. It's as if someone combined elements from all three of our species." Before Raymond could respond, a blast of energy scorched the wall beside him. He and Cora dove for cover, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to react just in time. "Intruders!" A voice boomed to the corridor. "You dare to trespass in the sanctuary of our new order?" A group of heavily armed soldiers rounded the corner, led by an Illyrian whose uniform bore unfamiliar insignia. His eyes locked onto Raymond and Cora, narrowing with recognition. "Ah, the human-loving queen and her pet. How fitting that you should be the ones to discover us." Cora's voice was steel as she addressed the Illyrian commander. "Identify yourself and explain your presence here immediately." The commander's laugh was cold and mirthless. "I am Krax, architect of the future. And you, my dear queen, are relics of a dying age." With a gesture from Krax, his soldiers opened fire. Raymond and Cora moved as one, their combat styles merging seamlessly as they engaged the enemy. The narrow corridor erupted into chaos as energy weapons discharged and hand-to-hand combat ensued. As they fought, Raymond caught glimpses of the base's true nature. Rows of stasis pods lined adjacent chambers, each containing what appeared to be a hybrid life form. Massive reactors thrummed with power, feeding energy into unknown devices. "Cora!" Raymond called out as he ducked under a swinging fist. "We need to shut this place down." Cora nodded, her eyes scanning the room for a control center. "There!" she shouted, pointing to a raised platform dominated by a complex array of consoles. They fought their way toward the platform, their team providing cover fire. Just as they reached the controls, Krax's voice rang out once more. "You're too late," he snarled, his hand hovering over a glowing panel. The future of our species will not be dictated by your misguided notions of cooperation. With a savage grin, Crax slammed his palm onto the panel. Alarms blared throughout the complex, and a computerized voice announced the activation of a self-destruct sequence. Raymond's mind raced as he assessed their options. The mission had suddenly become a race against time, with the fate of the Alliance hanging in the balance. Balance. Raymond's fingers flew across the control panel, desperately trying to override the self-destruct sequence. "It's no use," he growled, frustration evident in his voice. The systems locked down tight. Cora's eyes darted around the room, assessing their options. "We need to evacuate. Now." As if on cue, the complex shuddered, and chunks of ceiling began to rain down around them. Raymond and Cora sprinted back towards their team, shouting orders to retreat. They fought their way through collapsing corridors, Crax's forces in hot pursuit. The air filled with dust and the acrid smell of burning circuitry. Just as they reached their ship, a massive explosion rocked the base, sending everyone sprawling. Raymond helped Cora to her feet, and they stumbled into the ship. The Lumina technician's tendrils were a blur of motion as she initiated the launch sequence. With a bone-jarring thrust, the ship lifted off, narrowly escaping the base's final, cataclysmic explosion. As they broke free of the moon's gravity, Cora turned to Raymond, her expression grave. "This is a long way to go. Crax may have escaped, and there could be more bases like this one." Raymond nodded, his teeth clenched. "We need to inform the Alliance leadership immediately. This threat goes beyond anything we've faced before." The journey back to Earth was tense, filled with debriefings and strategy sessions. By the time they entered Earth's atmosphere, a plan had begun to take shape. Their arrival at the United Nations headquarters in New York sparked a media frenzy. Cameras flashed and reporters shouted questions as Raymond and Cora made their way into the building, their hands brushing against each other in a gesture that did not go unnoticed by the keen-eyed journalists. Inside the General Assembly Hall, delegates from every nation on Earth, as well as representatives from Illyria and the Lumina worlds, sat in rapt attention. Raymond and Cora stood side by side at the podium, their presence commanding and unified. "Distinguished delegates," Cora began, her voice strong and clear. "We come before you today with grave news. The threat we face is not just to Illyria or Earth, but to the entire Interstellar Alliance." Raymond stepped forward, activating a holographic display that showed footage from the lunar base. "What you're seeing is evidence of a vast conspiracy led by a rogue Illyrian named Crax. His organization has been developing hybrid technologies and life forms with the apparent goal of reshaping our societies according to his twisted vision." Murmurs of shock and concern rippled through the assembly. Raymond continued, his voice steady. "We believe this is just the tip of the iceberg. There may be more hidden bases, more sleeper agents embedded in our governments and militaries." Cora took over, her eyes scanning the room. "We cannot face this threat divided. The time has come for us to deepen our alliance, to create a unified command structure that can coordinate our efforts across multiple star systems." The debate that followed was intense, with some delegates expressing skepticism and others calling for immediate action. Through it all, Raymond and Cora stood firm, presenting their evidence and answering questions with a synchronicity that did not go unnoticed. As the session stretched into its second day, the Assembly finally reached a consensus. The Interstellar Alliance would be expanded, with a joint military command established to counter Crax's organization. Just as the final votes were being tallied, alarms blared throughout the building. A harried aide rushed to the podium, whispering urgently to Raymond and Cora. "We're under attack," Raymond announced, his voice cutting through the chaos. Multiple Alliance installations across several star systems are reporting coordinated strikes. Cora's eyes widened as she received another update through her neural link. The lunar colony. "It's been hit hard," We need to organize an immediate evacuation. Without hesitation, Raymond and Cora sprang into action, coordinating with military leaders and evacuation specialists. Within hours, they were aboard a rescue ship, racing towards the embattled lunar colony. As they approached, the scale of the devastation became clear. Huge sections of the colony's protective dome were shattered, and fires raged unchecked across the lunar surface. "This is worse than we thought," Cora said grimly as they donned their pressure suits. Raymond nodded, checking his weapon. "Let's move. Every second counts." They led the rescue teams into the chaos, guiding terrified colonists to waiting shuttles. As they worked their way deeper into the damaged structure, Raymond's suit sensors began to pick up an unusual energy signature. "Cora, are you seeing this?" he asked, gesturing to his wrist display. She frowned, studying the readings. "It's similar to the technology we saw in Krax's base, but different, more refined." Following the signal, they found themselves in a sealed laboratory deep within the colony's research sector. Inside, they discovered a small, intricately carved object pulsing with an otherworldly light. "A Lumina artifact," Cora breathed, her eyes wide with recognition. As Raymond reached for the object, the colony shuddered under another barrage of attacks. "We need to get this out of here," he said urgently. "Something tells me it's important to Krax's plans." Securing the artifact, they rejoined the evacuation efforts. As the last shuttle prepared to depart, Raymond and Cora shared a look of unwavering determination. The artifact in their possession might hold the key to understanding Krax's true motives and to stopping him once and for all. All for now. Raymond clutched the artifact tightly as they boarded the last shuttle. The colony behind them crumbled, engulfed in flames and destruction. As they broke through the lunar atmosphere, the full scale of the attack became apparent. Krax's forces swarmed around the Earth, their ships engaging Alliance vessels in a fierce orbital battle. "We need to get to the research planet," Cora said, her eyes fixed on the Lumina artifact. "If Krax is after this, it might hold the key to stopping him." Raymond nodded, relaying orders to the pilot. As they approached the planet's surface, alarms blared throughout the shuttle. Enemy fighters screamed past, their energy weapons leaving streaks of superheated plasma in their wake. The shuttle touched down hard on the landing pad of the research facility. Raymond and Cora sprinted towards the entrance, the artifact pulsing with an otherworldly light in Raymond's hands. As they reached the main laboratory, they found Dr. Volkov hunched over a console, her face illuminated by the glow of holographic displays. "Thank the stars you're here," Volkov said, relief evident in her voice. "We've managed to reactivate the Lumina network, but Krax's forces are pushing hard against our defenses." Raymond placed the artifact on a nearby scanner. "We found this on the lunar colony. It might be connected to Krax's plans." As Volkov began analyzing the artifact, the facility shuddered under enemy fire. Raymond and Cora exchanged a look, their enhanced connection allowing them to communicate without words. They moved as one towards the command center, their bodies still glowing faintly with residual Lumina energy. The command center was a hive of activity, with Alliance personnel coordinating defense efforts across multiple fronts. Raymond and Cora took charge, their unique abilities giving them an edge in processing information and making split-second decisions. "The Lumina network is giving us an advantage," an Illyrian technician reported. "We're able to anticipate their movements and counter effectively." However, their advantage was short-lived. Krax's forces quickly adapted, deploying specialized jamming devices that disrupted the Lumina-enhanced systems. The battle on the ground intensified, with enemy troops pushing closer to the facility's perimeter. Raymond turned to Cora, his expression grim. "We need to take the fight to them. As long as Krax is out there, he'll keep coming." Cora nodded, her eyes narrowing with tenacity. "We need to infiltrate his command ship, cut off the head of the snake." They quickly formulated a plan, calling Dr. Volkov to join them. The scientist arrived, carrying a device she had been working on. "This is an enhanced version of the compatibility device," she explained. "It should strengthen your connection even further, but I must warn you, the physiological changes could be significant." Raymond and Cora exchanged a look, then nodded in unison. "Do it," Raymond said. As Volkov activated the device, Raymond and Cora felt a surge of energy coursing through their bodies. The sensation was intense, bordering on painful, but they held firm. When it subsided, they looked at each other in amazement. Raymond's skin had taken on a faint bluish tint, while delicate patterns reminiscent of Illyrian markings had appeared on his arms. Cora's eyes had changed, becoming more human-like in appearance, and her hair had lightened to a color closer to Raymond's. "Fascinating," Volkov murmured, studying the readings on her device. "Your physiologies are harmonizing at a level I've never seen before." There was no time to dwell on the changes. Raymond and Cora quickly assembled a strike team, including Dr. Volkov and a select group of human and Illyrian special forces. They boarded a modified stealth shuttle equipped with Lumina cloaking technology, their target. Krax's command ship in orbit. As they approached the massive vessel, they encountered a previously unknown defense system. Energy fields shimmered around the ship, threatening to expose their presence. Cora closed her eyes, reaching out with her enhanced connection to the Lumina systems. Her mind interfaced with the enemy ship's network, probing for weaknesses. With a burst of concentration, she created a temporary blind spot in the defense grid. "Now!" she shouted, and the pilot guided the shuttle through the gap. They docked undetected, and the strike team quickly disembarked. Moving through the corridors of Krax's ship, they encountered increasing resistance. Raymond and Cora led the charge, their enhanced abilities allowing them to anticipate and counter enemy movements with uncanny precision. As they fought their way deeper into the ship, Dr. Volkov made a horrifying discovery. A hidden laboratory filled with stasis pods, each containing a captive human, Illyrian, or Lumina. Krax's scientists had been conducting twisted experiments, attempting to forcibly merge the different species. "This is monstrous," Volkov said, her voice shaking with anger as she worked to free the prisoners. Raymond and Cora pressed on, knowing that stopping Krax was now more crucial than ever. As they approached the bridge, they encountered a group of elite guards wearing prototype hybrid armor. The ensuing battle was fierce, with energy weapons and hand-to-hand combat blurring into a deadly dance. Raymond and Cora moved in perfect synchronization, their fighting styles merging seamlessly. Raymond's human adaptability complemented Cora's Illyrian strength and agility, allowing them to overcome the numerically superior force. With the guards defeated, they burst onto the bridge. Krax stood at the center, his eyes widening in surprise and fury at the sight of Raymond and Cora's altered appearances. "You're too late," Krax snarled, his hand hovering over a control panel. "I've already activated the dead man switch. If I fall, dozens of hidden doomsday devices across Alliance space will detonate." Raymond and Cora spread out, keeping Krax in their sights. "It's over, Krax," Raymond said. "Surrender now, and we can end this without further bloodshed." Krax's response was a maniacal laugh. He slammed his hand down on the panel, activating an experimental teleportation device. The air around him began to shimmer and distort, reality itself seeming to warp. "The future belongs to the strong," Krax shouted as the teleporter's energy field expanded, threatening to tear apart the fabric of space-time around the bridge. Raymond and Cora acted instinctively, their enhanced physiologies allowing them to push through the energy field. They tackled Krax, combining their strength to restrain him. As they grappled with the rogue commander, Raymond managed to deactivate the dead man's switch, while Cora shut down the malfunctioning teleporter. With Krax subdued and the immediate threats neutralized, the strike team secured the command ship. Alliance reinforcements arrived, turning the tide of the battle decisively in their favor. As the conflict in orbit wound down, Raymond and Cora returned to the surface of the research planet. The Lumina Guardian, sensing the shift in the balance of power, appeared before them, its form shimmering with ethereal energy. "You have proven yourselves worthy," the Guardian intoned. "The time has come for you to learn the full truth of the Ancient Ones." The Guardian revealed a hidden chamber filled with advanced medical technology, far beyond anything the Alliance had ever seen. Dr. Volkov's eyes widened as she began to analyze the equipment. "This is incredible," she breathed. "With this technology, we might be able to stabilize and even enhance the physiological changes you've undergone." As Volkov worked, Raymond and Cora underwent a series of examinations to assess the full extent of their transformation. The results were astounding. Their bodies had adapted in ways that suggested a true melding of human and Illyrian biology. "This could change everything," Volkov said, her voice filled with excitement and trepidation. "If we can replicate these changes, it could lead to viable human Illyrian offspring. The implications for our societies are enormous." Raymond and Cora exchanged a look, the weight of this discovery settling upon them. They knew that the road ahead would be challenging, with both opportunities and obstacles awaiting them. As they prepared to face the aftermath of the battle and the revelations of the ancient Lumina technology, one thing was certain: their bond and the future of human Illyrian relations had been irrevocably altered, transformed. As the implications of their new hybrid physiology settled in, Raymond and Cora found themselves at the center of a whirlwind of medical examinations and tests. Dr. Volkov worked tirelessly, her eyes alight with scientific curiosity as she pored over the results. "The changes are remarkable," Volkov said, gesturing to a holographic display of their cellular structure. "Your DNA is integrated in ways we never thought possible. It's as if your bodies have found a perfect balance between human and Illyrian traits." Raymond flexed his hand, watching as faint blue lines pulsed beneath his skin. "What does this mean for us, Doctor?" Volkov's expression turned serious. "It means you're at the forefront of a new frontier in interspecies relations. The Alliance leadership has approved an expanded research program to study the effects of human Illyrian hybridization. They want to establish a dedicated facility on a neutral planet." Cora nodded, her newly human-like eyes meeting Raymond's. "And they want us to be the primary subjects." "Correct," Volkov confirmed. "Your participation could be crucial for the future of our peoples." Without hesitation, Raymond and Cora agreed to volunteer for the program. As preparations for the new research facility began, however, their duties as Alliance operatives took precedence. Admiral Chen's hologram flickered to life in the command center. "We've uncovered intel on a hidden stronghold where Krax's loyalists are regrouping. It's located on a remote asteroid in a dense debris field. We need you two to lead a covert operation to infiltrate and retrieve vital data on their remaining cells and bases." Raymond studied the tactical display, noting the treacherous path through the asteroid field. "It won't be easy, but we're up for the challenge." The mission began with a tense approach to the asteroid base. Raymond and Cora piloted a stealth shuttle, their enhanced reflexes allowing them to navigate the debris field with uncanny precision. As they neared the facility, alarm klaxons blared. "They've detected us," Cora shouted, her hands flying over the controls. Raymond gritted his teeth, pushing the shuttle into a series of evasive maneuvers. "Hang on!" They crash-landed on the asteroid's surface, the shuttle's hull groaning under the impact. Donning their spacesuits, Raymond and Cora emerged into the harsh vacuum. Their new hybrid physiology proved its worth immediately, allowing them to withstand the extreme conditions with ease. As they approached the facility's entrance, a squad of elite guards poured out, weapons blazing. Raymond and Cora moved in perfect synchronization, their enhanced strength and agility giving them an edge. They dispatched the guards efficiently, their movements a blur of precise strikes and acrobatic dodges. Inside the facility, they encountered a maze of corridors and security checkpoints. Cora's improved cognitive abilities allowed her to quickly deduce the layout, guiding them towards the central data core. "Wait," Raymond said, holding up a hand as they passed a heavily reinforced door. "Do you smell that?" Cora nodded, her enhanced senses picking up the faint odor of chemicals and biological matter. They breached the door, revealing a hidden laboratory filled with ominous equipment. "They were trying to replicate our hybridization," Cora said, examining a broken stasis pod. Raymond discovered a prototype device, its purpose clear from the schematics displayed nearby. This was designed to forcibly merge human and Illyrian DNA. "We can't let this technology fall into the wrong hands." They quickly downloaded the research data and set explosive charges throughout the lab. As they made their way to the central data core, they encountered unexpected resistance. A group of human and Illyrian defectors emerged from the shadows, their bodies showing signs of partial hybridization. Their movements were jerky and unnatural, a far cry from the seamless integration Raymond and Cora had achieved. "Abominations," one of the defectors snarled, his voice distorted. "You will not stop our evolution." The battle that ensued pushed Raymond and Cora to their limits. The enhanced defectors possessed formidable strength and speed, but their artificial modifications paled in comparison to the natural bond shared by the couple. Raymond and Cora fought back-to-back, their movements perfectly coordinated. As one defector lunged at Cora, she ducked, allowing Raymond to deliver a powerful roundhouse kick. Another enemy fired an energy weapon at Raymond, but Cora deflected the blast with her enhanced reflexes. The tide of the battle turned when Raymond and Cora clasped hands, channeling their shared energy into a devastating shockwave that knocked their opponents off balance. With a final push, they overcame the defectors, leaving them unconscious and restrained. Breathing heavily, they reached the central data core. Cora's fingers danced over the console, bypassing security protocols with ease. "I've got it," she said, downloading the critical intelligence onto a secure data crystal. As alarms blared throughout the facility, Raymond and Cora fought their way back to their damaged shuttle. With Raymond's enhanced strength, they were able to quickly repair the craft enough for a risky escape. They blasted off from the asteroid just as the charges they had set detonated, destroying the laboratory and its dangerous prototype. Navigating the debris field once more, they finally broke free into open space, transmitting their success to Alliance Command. Upon their return, the intelligence they retrieved proved invaluable. The Alliance launched a series of coordinated strikes against Krax's remaining loyalists, dealing a severe blow to the anti-cooperation movement. In the aftermath of the mission, Raymond and Cora found themselves back in Dr. Volkov's laboratory, ready to begin the next phase of their journey. As they prepared for the first round of tests in the hybridization research program, Volkov approached them with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "There's something you need to know," she said, her voice tinged with awe. "Our preliminary scans indicate that your hybrid physiology may be capable of producing viable offspring. We're on the brink of a breakthrough that could change everything." Raymond and Cora exchanged a look, the weight of this revelation settling upon them. As they grappled with the personal and political implications of potentially becoming the progenitors of a new hybrid species, they knew that their greatest challenges, and perhaps their greatest triumphs, still lay ahead. The implications of their potential to produce hybrid offspring took a toll on Raymond and Cora as they left Dr. Volkov's laboratory. Over the next few days, they engaged in lengthy discussions about their future. The decision to proceed with the genetic treatments was not made lightly, but ultimately, they agreed it was a step they needed to take. As they began the series of medical procedures under Dr. Volkov's supervision, news of their endeavor spread like wildfire through both human and Illyrian societies. The reaction was swift and polarizing. On Earth, Crowds gathered in major cities, their chants echoing through the streets. "Protect humanity's purity," they shouted, waving signs denouncing the hybridization research. Similar scenes played out on Illyria, where conservative factions rallied against what they saw as a threat to their species' identity. In response to the growing unrest, Admiral Chun contacted Raymond and Cora via secure channel. "We're relocating you to a neutral planet," he informed them, his expression grave. "It's for your own safety and to ensure the research can continue unimpeded." Within hours, they found themselves aboard a stealth transport, bound for a secret facility light years away from the brewing conflict. The complex was a marvel of engineering, its gleaming walls housing state-of-the-art medical equipment and impenetrable security measures. Commander Vex greeted them upon arrival, his imposing figure a welcome sight. "I've assembled an elite team to protect this facility," he said, leading them through reinforced corridors. "No one gets in or out without my say-so." As days turned into weeks, Raymond and Cora underwent increasingly advanced treatments. Dr. Volkov worked tirelessly, her expertise combining seamlessly with the ancient Lumina technology at her disposal. During a brief respite between procedures, Raymond noticed Cora's hand trembling slightly as she reached for a glass of water. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern etching his features. Cora nodded, managing a smile. "Just a bit overwhelmed. The change is happening within us. It's incredible and terrifying all at once." Raymond took her hand, feeling the slight pulse of energy that now constantly flowed between them. "We're in this together," he reassured her. "Whatever comes next, we face it as one." Their moment of intimacy was interrupted by a sudden commotion outside. Alarms blared as Commander Vex's voice rang out over the intercom. "Security breach in Sector 7. All personnel to battle stations." Raymond and Cora sprang into action, their enhanced reflexes carrying them swiftly through the facility. They arrived at the security center to find Vex coordinating a counter-assault against a group of infiltrators. "Extremists," Vex growled, gesturing to the surveillance feeds. "They've disabled our outer defenses, but we're holding them at the main entrance." Raymond analyzed the tactical display, his mind racing. "We need to flank them. Cora, take a team through the maintenance tunnels. I'll lead the frontal assault to keep their attention." As they moved to execute their plan, Dr. Volkov's voice crackled over the comm. "Raymond, Cora, wait. I have news. The latest tests show significant progress. We're ready for the final phase of treatment." The weight of the moment hung in the air. They exchanged a look, understanding passing between them without words. This was it, the culmination of their journey, the step that could change everything. "Go!" Vex urged them. "We'll handle the intruders. This is too important to delay." With a nod of gratitude, Raymond and Cora raced to the medical bay. Dr. Volkov waited for them, her eyes alight with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "Are you ready?" she asked as they took their positions on the treatment beds. Raymond reached out, clasping Cora's hand tightly. "We are," they answered in unison. As the advanced Lumina technology hummed to life around them, Raymond and Cora felt a surge of energy coursing through their bodies. The final phase of treatment had begun, pushing their hybrid physiology to its limits and opening the door to a future neither of them could have imagined. In the background, the sounds of battle raged on, a stark reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. But for now, in this moment of transformation, Raymond and Cora focused solely on each other and the incredible journey they had undertaken together. As the procedure continued, Dr. Volkov monitored their vital signs closely, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "Remarkable," she murmured. "The integration is proceeding faster than we anticipated. Your bodies are adapting at an unprecedented rate." Suddenly, a tremor shook the facility. Commander Vex's voice crackled over the intercom, strained but determined. "We repelled the main assault, but they've called for reinforcements. We need to evacuate the non-essential personnel. Dr. Volkov glanced at her patients, torn between the need for caution and the importance of completing the treatment. We can't stop now, she decided. We're too close to a breakthrough. As the minutes ticked by, Raymond and Cora felt waves of sensation washing over them. Their vision blurred, sharpened, then blurred again as their bodies underwent rapid changes at the cellular level. Almost there, Dr. Volkov encouraged them. Just a few more moments. The facility shook again, more violently this time. Alarms blared, and the distant sound of weapons fire grew louder. Through it all, Raymond and Cora remained focused on each other, their hands clasped tightly as they weathered the storm of transformation together. Finally, the hum of the Lumina technology began to subside. Dr. Volkov's eyes widened as she examined the final readings. "It's done," she breathed. "The treatment was successful. You've achieved full hybridization potential." As Raymond and Cora sat up, they felt a newfound strength coursing through their bodies. Their senses seemed sharper, their movements more fluid than ever before. But there was something else, too, a connection between them that went beyond the physical, as if their very essences had become intertwined. Before they could fully process the changes, Commander Vex burst into the medical bay. "We need to move now," he shouted. "The extremists have breached the inner perimeter. We have to get you to the emergency shuttle." Raymond and Cora exchanged a determined look. "No," Raymond said firmly. "We're not running. This ends here." Cora nodded in agreement. "We'll face them together. It's time to show them what true unity looks like." As they prepared to confront the invaders, Dr. Volkov approached them with a mix of excitement and concern. "There's something else you should know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The final scans indicate that Queen Cora is pregnant. You're carrying a viable hybrid embryo." The revelation hit them like a shockwave, momentarily drowning out the chaos around them. Raymond stared at Cora in awe, his hand instinctively moving to her abdomen. We did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Cora placed her hand over his, her eyes shining with a mixture of joy and perseverance. "We did," she agreed, "and now we have even more reason to fight." As they turned to face the oncoming threat, Raymond and Cora stood tall, their bodies humming with newfound power and purpose. The future of human-Illyrian relations, and perhaps the entire galaxy, now grew within Cora. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as the living embodiment of unity between their peoples. Commander Vex, seeing the willpower in their eyes, nodded grimly. "Then let's give them a battle they'll never forget," he said, readying his weapon. With that, Raymond and Cora stepped forward, ready to defend not just themselves, but the promise of a new future that they now carried within them. The next chapter of their journey, and that of their unborn child, was about to unfold in the crucible of conflict. Battle. The sounds of conflict echoed through the facility as Raymond and Cora prepared to face the oncoming threat. But fate had other plans. A sharp gasp from Cora halted their advance. She doubled over, clutching her abdomen as a wave of pain washed over her. Raymond's eyes widened in realization. "The baby," he breathed. "It's coming now." Dr. Volkov sprang into action, her medical training taking over. "We need to get her to the emergency medical bay immediately," she ordered, already moving to support Cora. Commander Vex's face was a mask of conflicting emotions, concern for Cora's well-being warring with the urgent need to defend the facility. "I'll hold them off," he decided, hefting his weapon. "Get her to safety." Raymond scooped Cora into his arms, their enhanced physiology allowing him to move swiftly despite her weight. They raced through the corridors, Dr. Volkov at their heels, as the sounds of battle grew closer. The emergency medical bay was a stark contrast to the chaos outside, sterile, quiet, and filled with advanced equipment. Raymond gently laid Cora on the prepared bed as Dr. Volkov and her team swarmed into action. "The labor is progressing rapidly," Dr. Volkov announced, her eyes fixed on the holographic readouts floating above Cora. "The hybrid physiology is accelerating the process." Cora gritted her teeth against another contraction, her hand squeezing Raymond's with inhuman strength. "I can feel it," she gasped. "It's different, powerful." Hours passed in a blur of activity. Raymond remained by Cora's side, offering support and comfort as she endured the intense labor. The medical team worked tirelessly, their expertise combining with the advanced technology to ensure the safety of both mother and child. Suddenly, a new alarm blared, not from the battle outside, but from the medical equipment. Dr. Volkov's brow furrowed as she studied the readouts. "The energy readings from the fetus are off the charts," she reported. "I've never seen anything like this." Before anyone could respond, Cora let out a final, powerful cry. The room filled with a blinding light, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. When it faded, a new sound filled the air, the strong, healthy cry of a newborn. Dr. Volkov carefully lifted the child, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's a boy," she announced, her voice filled with awe. "And he's perfect." Raymond and Cora gazed at their son, taking in his unique features. His skin had a soft, iridescent sheen, reminiscent of Cora's Illyrian heritage. His eyes, when they opened, were a striking violet, a perfect blend of human and Illyrian genetics. As the medical team began their preliminary examinations, a comm panel on the wall crackled to life. Admiral Chen's face appeared, his expression a mix of relief and urgency. "Congratulations on the birth," he said quickly. "But we have a situation. The news is spreading fast, and extremist groups are launching coordinated attacks across multiple systems. We need to move you to a more secure location immediately." Raymond and Cora exchanged a look, their joy tempered by the reality of their situation. They had known their child would face challenges, but the scale of the threat was becoming clear. "Understood, Admiral," Raymond replied. "We'll be ready to move as soon as possible." As if sensing the tension in the room, the newborn began to glow faintly, emitting a soft, pulsing light. Dr. Volkov's eyes widened as she checked her instruments. "These readings, they're like nothing I've ever seen," she murmured. "Your son appears to have a unique connection to Lumina technology. We need to inform the Lumina Guardian immediately." Raymond nodded, his mind racing with the implications. Their child was more than just a symbol of unity between humans and Illyrians. He could be the key to unlocking the secrets of the ancient civilization that had once united the galaxy. A thunderous explosion rocked the facility, followed by Commander Vek's urgent voice over the intercom. "Perimeter breach in Sector 3. All personnel, prepare for immediate evacuation." Raymond turned to Cora, who was already sitting up, her hybrid physiology allowing for a remarkably swift recovery. "We need to move," he said, helping her to her feet. Dr. Volkov quickly wrapped the newborn in a protective blanket, handing him to Cora. "The evacuation transport is prepped and waiting in the hangar," she informed them. "I've uploaded all the medical data. We can continue our analysis en route." As they made their way through the corridors, the sounds of battle grew closer. Alliance soldiers rushed past them, taking up defensive positions to cover their retreat. Raymond's enhanced senses were on high alert, scanning for any sign of immediate danger. They reached the hangar just as another explosion rocked the facility. Through the open bay doors, they could see the chaos unfolding in the skies above. Alliance ships engaged in fierce combat with the attacking extremist forces. Commander Vex appeared, his armor scorched and dented. "The transport is ready," he reported. "We've loaded all essential personnel and equipment, but we'll need to fight our way through their blockade." Raymond nodded, his heart made. "Then that's what we'll do," he said, guiding Cora and their child towards a waiting ship. As they boarded the transport, Raymond couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions: pride in his new family, concern for their safety, and a growing sense that this was just the beginning of a much larger journey. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew they would face them together, united by the miraculous new life they had brought into the universe. The transport's engines roared to life as the hangar doors fully opened, revealing the battle-scarred sky beyond. With a final look back at the facility that had been their home and the birthplace of their son, Raymond, Cora, and their newborn child prepared to launch into an uncertain future, carrying with them the hopes of two species and the potential to change the course of galactic history. The transport shuddered as it broke through the planet's atmosphere, alarms blaring throughout the cabin. Raymond gripped the edge of his seat, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to maintain balance despite the violent turbulence. "We've lost primary navigation," the pilot shouted over the din. "The Lumina interference is stronger than we anticipated. Switching to manual control." Cora held their child close, her eyes meeting Raymond's with a mixture of drive and concern. The newborn, seemingly unaffected by the chaos around them, emitted a soft, pulsing glow. "Brace for impact," Commander Vec's voice rang out as the ship plummeted towards the planet's surface. With a bone-jarring thud, the transport skidded across rocky terrain before coming to a halt. Silence fell over the cabin, broken only by the hiss of escaping steam and the crackle of damaged electronics. Raymond was the first to move, quickly assessing the situation. "Everyone all right?" he called out, receiving a chorus of groans and affirmatives in response. Dr. Volkov immediately began checking on the other passengers, her medical training kicking in. "No serious injuries," she reported, relief evident in her voice. As the group began to gather their bearings, Cora gasped. Raymond turned to see their child enveloped in a cocoon of shimmering energy. Before their eyes, the infant's form began to shift and grow. "It's the atmosphere," Dr. Volkov exclaimed, her eyes wide as she scanned the air with a handheld device. "There are trace elements here that are accelerating the hybrid physiology." Within minutes, the energy cocoon dissipated, revealing a child who appeared to be several years old. The boy blinked, his violet eyes focusing on his parents with an intelligence that belied his apparent age. "Mother, father," he spoke, his voice clear and steady. "We need to move quickly. This planet holds secrets that could turn the tide of the war." Stunned by their child's rapid growth and apparent knowledge, Raymond and Cora exchanged glances before nodding in agreement. They led the group out of the damaged transport, stepping onto the alien world surface. The landscape was a mix of jagged rock formations and dense, alien vegetation. As they surveyed their surroundings, the child pointed towards a nearby cliff face. "There," he said with certainty, "an entrance lies hidden beneath the surface." Following the child's guidance, the group made their way to the cliff. As they approached, a section of rock shimmered and disappeared, revealing a passageway that led deep into the planet's core. "A Lumina outpost," Raymond breathed, recognizing the architectural style from his previous encounters with the ancient technology. As they entered the facility, dormant systems sprang to life around them. Holographic displays flickered into existence, filling the air with streams of data and unfamiliar symbols. Their child, now resembling a teenager, stepped forward and placed his hand on a central console. The entire facility hummed with energy, responding to his touch. "I can access the archives," he announced, his eyes darting back and forth as he processed the influx of information. "This outpost contains crucial data on Krax's operations, including the location and defenses of his main base." Cora moved to stand beside her rapidly maturing son, marveling at his connection to the Lumina technology. "Can you download the information?" she asked. The teenager nodded, concentrating as he interfaced with the system. Suddenly, his eyes widened in alarm. "We have company," he warned. "A fleet of Krax loyalist vessels is approaching the planet." They detected the energy signature from this facility. Commander Vex sprang into action, organizing the rescued personnel into defensive positions. "We need to hold this position until Alliance reinforcements arrive," he ordered. Raymond activated his comm unit, sending out an encrypted distress signal to nearby Alliance forces. "Help is on the way," he assured the group, "but we need to prepare for a fight." As the sound of enemy ships entering the atmosphere echoed through the facility, Raymond and Cora stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Their child, now a young adult in appearance, stepped between them. "Together," he said, his voice filled with purpose, "we will unlock the full potential of this Lumina technology and turn the tide of this war." The ground shook as the first enemy forces made landfall, signaling the beginning of a battle that would shape the future of human-Illyrian relations and the fate of the stars itself. The battle for the Lumina outpost raged on, with Raymond, Cora, and their rapidly maturing child at the center of the conflict. As enemy forces pounded against their defenses, the family worked tirelessly to extract crucial data from the ancient systems. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light engulfed the facility. When it faded, the attacking ships had vanished, leaving only stunned silence in their wake. "The Lumina network," their child explained, his eyes alight with understanding. "I've activated it across the galaxy. It's neutralizing Krax's forces." In the days that followed, the tide of the war shifted dramatically. The Alliance, bolstered by the power of the Lumina technology, began to push back against Krax's loyalists. Victory seemed within reach, but one final hurdle remained. "We've located Krax's main base," Admiral Chin announced during a strategy meeting on the Alliance flagship. "It's time to end this conflict once and for all." Raymond, Cora, and their child, now resembling a young adult, exchanged determined glances. They knew their unique abilities would be crucial in this final assault. As Alliance forces established a forward operating base on a nearby moon, the family worked closely with Dr. Volkov and the engineering team. Their child, drawing on his vast knowledge of Lumina technology, proposed a daring plan. "We can create a device to mask our genetic signatures," he explained, manipulating holographic schematics. "It will allow us to infiltrate Krax's base undetected." The plan was risky, but the potential to end the war with minimal casualties was too great to ignore. As preparations continued, Raymond and Cora underwent intensive training, perfecting their disguises and memorizing Krax's protocols. On the eve of the operation, Alliance intelligence intercepted a crucial transmission. "Krax is gathering his top lieutenants," Commander Vex reported. "This is our chance to take out the entire leadership." The timeline accelerated, forcing the team to move before the masking device could be fully tested. Raymond and Cora boarded a captured enemy vessel with a small group of operatives, their appearances altered by the experimental technology. As they approached Krax's base, Raymond felt a strange, tingling sensation coursing through his body. He glanced at Cora, noting the subtle changes in her features. The masking device was working, but its effects were more pronounced than anticipated. "Remember," Cora whispered as they prepared to dock, "we're high-ranking officers. Act like it." They passed through the initial checkpoints without incident, the forged credentials holding up under scrutiny. Inside the base, Raymond and Cora navigated the maze-like corridors, their enhanced senses on high alert as they gathered intelligence on the facility's defenses. As they neared the main conference room, alarms began to blare. "Security breach in Sector 7, a mechanized voice announced. All personnel on high alert." Raymond's heart raced as he realized the masking device was failing. He locked eyes with Cora, a silent understanding passing between them. They would have to improvise. "You there," Raymond barked at a nearby guard, channeling the authority of his disguise. "Report to Sector 7 immediately. We'll handle things here." The guard hesitated for a moment before saluting and rushing off. Raymond and Cora pressed on, knowing their window of opportunity was rapidly closing. Suddenly, a familiar energy signature pulsed through the base. Raymond's comm unit crackled to life, their child's voice coming through clearly despite the interference. "I've detected a Lumina weapon," he reported urgently. "Krax is preparing to activate it. I'm coming to assist." Before Raymond could protest, a blinding flash illuminated the corridor. Their child materialized before them, his form shimmering with residual teleportation energy. "We need to move," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos erupting around them. "The weapon has the potential to destabilize the entire Lumina network." The family moved as one, their enhanced abilities and deep connection allowing them to anticipate each other's actions. They fought their way through waves of Krax's forces, their movements a deadly dance of precision and power. As they approached Krax's inner sanctum, the air crackled with energy. The Lumina weapon was powering up, its ominous hum growing louder with each passing second. "We need to breach that door," Raymond shouted over the din, indicating the heavily fortified entrance to Krax's command center. Their child placed his hand on the security panel, interfacing directly with the base's systems. The door's locking mechanism groaned in protest before finally sliding open. Inside, Krax stood before a pulsing orb of energy, his hand hovering over a control panel. He turned to face the intruders, his eyes widening in recognition and fury. "You're too late," Krax snarled, his finger inching towards the activation switch. "With this weapon, I'll undo everything you fought for. The natural order will be restored." Raymond, Cora, and their child tensed, ready to launch themselves at Krax. The destiny of the universe hung in the balance as they prepared for the final confrontation. Time seemed to slow as Raymond, Cora, and their child faced off against Krax, the fate of countless lives hanging in the balance. In that crucial moment, the hybrid child's eyes flickered with an otherworldly intelligence. He raised his hand, sending out a pulse of energy that momentarily disrupted the base's security systems. The lights flickered and the hum of defensive barriers faded. "Now!" Raymond shouted, seizing the opportunity. They burst into action, Raymond and Cora moving with practiced synchronicity. Krax's loyalists, caught off guard by the sudden breach, fumbled for their weapons. Raymond engaged the nearest guard, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to disarm the man with a swift series of strikes. Cora dashed towards the Lumina device, her form blurring with speed. She assessed the pulsating structure, its energy output growing more unstable by the second. Without hesitation, she began the complex process of dismantling the weapon, her fingers dancing across alien control surfaces. Their child remained at the entrance, his consciousness split between monitoring the external systems and supporting his parents. Suddenly, his eyes widened. "The energy buildup is critical," he called out, his voice tight with urgency. "I need to interface directly." Before Raymond or Cora could protest, the young hybrid rushed into the room, making a beeline for the central console. As he laid his hands on the glowing surface, his body tensed, tendrils of energy coursing over his skin. Krax, realizing the tide had turned against him, snarled in defiance. "You think you've won?" he spat, backing towards a secondary control panel. "I'll see this sector burn before I let your abomination of a family succeed." Raymond lunged at Krax, closing the distance between them in a heartbeat. The two men grappled, their enhanced strength causing the metal floor to buckle beneath them. Krax fought with the desperation of a cornered animal, his eyes wild with hatred. "Why, Krax?" Raymond demanded, barely avoiding a vicious strike to his throat. "Why go to such lengths?" Krax's face contorted with a mix of rage and what almost looked like sorrow. "You don't understand," he hissed. "The mixing of our species will be our downfall. Purity is strength." Their struggle brought them dangerously close to the Lumina device. Cora, still working to stabilize the machine, called out a warning. Raymond, be careful. The energy field is expanding. Suddenly, Cracks broke free from Raymond's grip and banged his head onto a nearby panel. Alarms blared throughout the facility as the Lumina device's output spiked dramatically. The air crackled with visible arcs of energy, and the very fabric of space seemed to warp around them. Their child cried out in pain, his body rigid as he absorbed the sudden surge of power. "I can't contain it," he gasped, his form starting to glow with an intense, otherworldly light. Raymond's heart clenched at the sight of his son in agony. With renewed commitment, he redoubled his assault on Cracks. The rogue commander, distracted by his seeming victory, failed to block Raymond's lightning-fast combination of strikes. In a matter of seconds, Cracks found himself pinned to the ground, a pair of energy-dampening cuffs snapping around his wrists. With Cracks secured, Raymond rushed to join Cora at the Lumina device. They flanked their child, instinctively forming a circuit of energy. The hybrid's eyes snapped open, glowing with the same intensity as the machine before them. "I have an idea," he said, his voice resonating with power. "But it's risky." Cora squeezed her child's hand. "We trust you," she said simply. The young hybrid nodded, then closed his eyes in concentration. The energy flowing through the device began to shift, redirecting into the base's power grid. Lights throughout the facility flickered and died as system after system overloaded. The inner sanctum plunged into darkness, save for the glow emanating from the family's linked forms. As the last of the excess energy dissipated, their child collapsed, his body going limp between them. "No!" Cora cried out, cradling her son's unconscious form. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the hallways. Alliance forces, alerted by the power fluctuations, had begun their final assault on the base. The first team to reach the inner sanctum found Raymond and Cora huddled protectively around their child, with Cracks lying defeated nearby. As medical teams rushed in, Dr. Volkov appearing among them, Raymond felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. They had won, but at what cost? He watched as their child was carefully transferred to a stretcher, his normally vibrant form now pale and still. "He's alive," Dr. Volkov assured them, her eyes filled with a mix of concern and awe. "But his readings are off the charts. We need to get him to the flagship immediately." As they made their way through the now quiet base, Raymond and Cora refused to leave their child's side. Around them, Alliance troops secured the facility, rounding up the last of Crax's loyalists. Aboard the medical shuttle, as it raced towards the orbiting Alliance fleet, Raymond gazed out at the stars. The sector that had been on the brink of destruction now seemed deceptively peaceful. Yet he knew that their actions today would have far-reaching consequences. Cora's hand found his, their fingers intertwining. No words were needed as they shared a look of commitment and hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together as a family. As the shuttle docked with the flagship, alarms began to sound throughout the vessel. Reports flooded in of strange energy signatures detected across Alliance space. The Lumina network, dormant for millennia, had awakened. Raymond and Cora exchanged a glance, knowing that their fight was not nearly finished. But for now, their focus remained on their child whose future, and the future of the galaxy, hung in the balance. Balance hung in the air unfinished. The flagship's medical bay became a hive of activity as Raymond and Cora rushed their unconscious child to the waiting medical team. Dr. Volkov's face was a mask of concentration as she directed her staff, her hands moving with practiced efficiency over the array of advanced medical equipment. "Vital signs are erratic," she reported, her voice tense. "We're detecting massive fluctuations in Lumina energy within his system." Raymond and Cora stood back, their hands clasped tightly together as they watched the medical team work. The beeping of monitors and the hum of energy stabilizers filled the air, creating a discordant symphony of urgency. Days passed in a blur of anxious waiting. Raymond and Cora took turns maintaining their vigil, never leaving their child's side for long. They spoke in hushed tones, sharing memories of happier times and daring to hope for a future they could barely imagine. On the fourth day, as Raymond sat by the bedside, he noticed a change. The child's fingers twitched and the steady rhythm of the monitors quickened. "Cora," he called out, his voice cracking with emotion. "I think he's waking up." Cora rushed to join him, and together they watched as their child's eyes fluttered open. A collective gasp filled the room as they saw the change. The child's irises now glowed with an inner light, pulsing gently like the heart of a star. "Mom? Dad?" The child's voice was weak but clear. "We're here, sweetheart," Cora said, her voice thick with relief. "How do you feel?" The child blinked, his glowing eyes taking in the room. Suddenly, the monitors around them began to flicker and change, displays shifting rapidly as data streamed across the screens. I can see everything," the child whispered, awe evident in his voice. "The ship, its systems, the data. It's all there in my mind." Dr. Volkov approached, her expression a mix of concern and fascination. "Your connection to the Lumina technology seems to have been enhanced," she explained, studying the readings. "Your body has integrated the energy you absorbed, fundamentally altering your physiology." As the child's strength returned, so did his ability to process and manipulate vast amounts of data. He effortlessly interfaced with the ship's systems, accessing information at speeds that left even the most advanced AI systems struggling to keep up. This newfound ability proved invaluable as reports began flooding in from across Alliance space. The dormant Lumina network had awakened, and outposts long forgotten were springing to life, their ancient technologies reactivating after millennia of silence. While Raymond and Cora focused on their child's recovery, Alliance forces moved swiftly to capitalize on the intelligence gained from Krax's capture. Coordinated strikes against hidden bases and sleeper cells dealt a crushing blow to the remaining anti-cooperation factions. As the immediate crisis subsided, the Alliance leadership called for an emergency summit. Representatives from human, Illyrian, and Lumina factions gathered aboard the flagship to discuss the ramifications of recent events and chart a course for the future. Raymond and Cora found themselves at the center of attention as they entered the grand conference room. Murmurs rippled through the assembled delegates as they took their seats, their child walking confidently between them. Admiral Jean, the head of Alliance operations, opened the proceedings. "We stand at a crossroads," she began, her voice carrying across the hushed room. "The events of the past weeks have reshaped our understanding of what's possible. We must now decide how to move forward." As discussions unfolded, Raymond and Cora were called upon to share their experiences. They spoke of the challenges and triumphs they had faced as a human Illyrian pair, and of the unique perspective their child brought to their family. When it was the child's turn to speak, a hush fell over the room. His glowing eyes swept across the assembled delegates as he began to outline a bold proposal. "The changes I've undergone have given me insight into the potential for true integration between our species," he said, his young voice carrying a wisdom beyond his years. "I believe we can use Lumina technology to create stable human-Illyrian hybrids on a larger scale, opening up new possibilities for cooperation and advancement." The room erupted into a cacophony of voices, some excited by the prospect, others voicing concerns about the implications of such a drastic step. The debate raged on, with passionate arguments presented from all sides. As the summit continued, urgent reports began to filter in from various Lumina outposts across the sector. The activation of ancient technologies was triggering unexpected environmental changes on several planets, creating habitable zones in previously barren landscapes. Recognizing the need for careful study and management of these changes, Admiral Jean proposed the formation of a specialized task force. All eyes turned to Raymond, Cora, and their child as she announced her decision. "Your unique combination of skills and experiences makes you ideally suited to lead this effort," Admiral Jean said. Will you accept this responsibility? Raymond and Cora exchanged a look, years of shared experiences and unspoken communication flowing between them. They turned to their child, who nodded eagerly. "We accept," Raymond said, his voice firm with willpower. As the summit drew to a close, preparations began for the task force's first mission. Their destination, a newly activated Lumina outpost on a distant planet where the landscape was undergoing rapid transformation. The family stood together on the observation deck of their assigned vessel, watching as the flagship grew smaller in the distance. Before them lay a galaxy of possibilities, challenges, and wonders yet to be discovered. Cora reached out, taking Raymond's hand in hers. "Ready for another adventure?" she asked, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Raymond squeezed her hand, feeling the familiar surge of excitement and anticipation. "Always," he replied, his eyes meeting hers. Their child stood between them, his glowing eyes fixed on the stars ahead. As the ship accelerated into hyperspace, the family braced themselves for whatever lay ahead, knowing that together, they could face any challenge the universe might throw their way. Their way. The stars streaked past in brilliant lines as the ship entered hyperspace, carrying them towards their next great adventure. Months passed as Raymond, Cora, and their child worked tirelessly to establish the pilot colony on the transformed planet. The once barren world now teemed with life, its landscape reshaped by the awakened Lumina technology. Lush forests sprouted where there had been only dust, and crystal-clear lakes filled depressions that had been empty for millennia. As the sun set on another productive day, Raymond stood at the edge of the colony's main plaza, watching as humans and Illyrians worked side by side to construct new dwellings. The sight filled him with pride and hope for the future they were building. Cora approached, her steps light despite the long day. "The agricultural team reports the first harvest will be ready next week," she said, a smile playing on her lips. "We're ahead of schedule." Their child materialized beside them, his form shimmering slightly as he disengaged from the colony's central computer. "Energy distribution is optimized," he reported, his glowing eyes scanning the horizon. "We're operating at 97% efficiency." Raymond was about to respond when a high-priority alert chimed from his comm device. He exchanged a quick glance with Cora before activating the holographic display. Admiral Zhun's face appeared, her expression a mix of excitement and concern. "We've detected something," she began without preamble. "A massive luminous structure has activated on the edge of our galaxy. Our analysts are calling it the Nexus." As the Admiral continued her briefing, Raymond felt a familiar surge of anticipation. This discovery could change everything they thought they knew about the Lumina and their technology. "We need your team to investigate," Admiral Zhun concluded. "You're the most qualified to handle whatever we might find there." Raymond looked at Cora and their child, seeing his own excitement mirrored in their eyes. "We'll depart immediately," he assured the Admiral. Within hours, they were aboard the Alliance's most advanced vessel, a sleek ship that incorporated the latest hybrid technology. As they prepared for the jump to hyperspace, Raymond couldn't help but feel that this mission might be their most important yet. The journey to the galactic periphery took several days, even with their advanced propulsion systems. As they dropped out of hyperspace, the Nexus came into view. It was a colossal structure, dwarfing their ship and any other construct they had encountered. Its surface seemed to shift and shimmer, defying the laws of physics as they understood them. As they approached, a shimmering energy field blocked their path. Alarms blared throughout the ship as their sensors struggled to analyze the barrier. "I can't get any readings," the navigator reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "It's like nothing we've ever encountered." Their child stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the Nexus. "Let me try," he said, placing his hands on the ship's interface panel. As he connected with the ship's systems, his body began to glow with an intense, pulsating light. "It's a test," he said after a moment, his voice resonating with power. The barrier is designed to admit only those who truly embody interspecies cooperation. It's the final safeguard left by the Lumina. Raymond and Cora moved to stand on either side of their child, instinctively knowing what they needed to do. They joined hands, forming a circuit of energy that flowed through all three of them and into the ship systems. The barrier before them began to shimmer and pulse, matching the rhythm of their combined energy. Slowly, it parted, creating an opening just large enough for their ship to pass through. As they entered the Nexus, they found themselves in a vast chamber unlike anything they had ever seen. Holographic displays filled the air, showing star maps and data streams that stretched across multiple galaxies. Pulsating energy conduits ran along the walls and ceiling, converging at a central point that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around it. Their child's eyes widened as he connected with the Nexus's central computer. Information flowed into him at an incredible rate, and he gasped as the full scope of the Lumina's plans became clear. "It's not just a hub," he said, his voice filled with awe. "It's a seed ship. The Lumina created to travel between galaxies, spreading life and the potential for cooperation wherever it goes." As if in response to his words, the Nexus began to come alive around them. Dormant systems activated, and the entire structure started to reconfigure itself. Raymond and Cora watched in amazement as the chamber transformed, revealing new levels and capabilities they could scarcely comprehend. A holographic figure appeared before them, its form shimmering with the same energy that pulsed through the Nexus. It spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Congratulations," it said. "You have passed the final test. The Nexus awakens for those who have proven themselves worthy of carrying on our legacy." Raymond and Cora exchanged a look, realizing that they stood at the threshold of something far greater than they had ever imagined. Their journey had led them here, to this moment, and the decisions they made now would shape not just their own lives, but the future of entire galaxies. As the holographic figure began to explain the true nature of the Nexus and the choice that lay before them, Raymond felt Cora's hand tighten in his. Whatever came next, they would face it together, as they always had. The Nexus hummed with potential, ready to carry them on a journey beyond their wildest dreams. The next chapter of their adventure was about to begin, and the cosmos itself seemed to hold its breath in anticipation.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.